Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rocket Lasso Live, episode 34 of season 3, which is the finale. I hope everyone is doing well on this lovely Wednesday. Unfortunately, it is the last day of the season. I'll be back in 2 or 3 months, somewhere in between there, for continuation of, well, season 4. So, a couple things to cover. First of all, if you're watching this on replay, none of the giveaways are going to be applicable. Obviously, I'll probably trim those parts out from the video as well. But I'm going to be doing some giveaways throughout the stream from Rocket Lasso plugins. Primarily, I'm focused on the 3 spline plugins that are coming out for giving away. But I guess if somebody wanted to do recall, that's also an option. So in order to be eligible to win, you'll have to be a participant in the chat. But start getting those questions put together. I want to see questions so we can tackle those. That's the plan. It's been a good season. We've got lots of questions that we've covered, a lot of really fun, exciting things. Over the course of the season, we got to cover our S24 and then R25. We had lots of different guests throughout the entire year. So it was a lot of fun. Got to cover a lot of stuff. And as always, I look forward to, well, it's always nice having the break. I get to focus on some other things. But, you know, season 4 will come back and it'll be good again as well. So let's see. Yeah, the idea will be in the giveaway, you'll be able to choose which plugin that you want, because I know a lot of people are going to have, purchased 1 or 2. And as, where is it? Kent said, you already own all of the plugins. So if somebody does happen to own all the plugins already, I guess you could just hold on to it. And then whenever we release a new plugin, you'd be like, hey, I was a winner. I want to get the new one. So that'd be completely fine. So, but any support is always appreciated, as always. Yeah, I'm actually with you, Mr. Matt Dog, where it's both a happy and a sad day, depending on it when it's the season finale. But we did succeed in another full season. I think we do like every single day, except for when I'm doing like a Maxon presentation and whatnot. So we do get to cover everything really well. Anyway, we've got questions coming in. Make sure you post your questions. If you're on YouTube, type out a question. If you're on Twitch, you can, of course, type one out or put a link. If you put a link, I need to see the artist or studio who put it together. Otherwise, I like links to photos, or just typed out questions are also cool as well. So we're going to be tackling some of those. But you know what? Just for fun, why don't we start out with a giveaway to start it right in the beginning. So let me show you. We've got a highly not technical way of doing this. Let me see. My phone just made a noise. I'll ignore it. A highly not technical way of doing this. So eventually one day, I know I say it every year and I just don't look into it, that there are ways in Twitch to like do a raffle type thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste all of the chat that is currently available, both from Twitch and from YouTube. And I'm going to paste it into this text randomizer. So as an example, I wrote out 1 through 10. You'll see if I click randomize, it's going to completely randomly rearrange those. So in this case, number 4 would have won. So I'm currently selecting all of the current chat in Twitch and pasting. And I'm currently selecting all of the chat in YouTube and pasting. And the first, once I hit the randomize, I haven't hit it yet. I'm gonna scroll up to the top. As soon as I hit randomize, I know there might be some like text and whatnot, but the first name at the top is going to be the winner. So I've already copied it for reference. If you do, first of all, if you have to be here to win. If you're not actively here, then we're just gonna skip over and pick another person. But just contact me after the show in some other way and be like, oh, I'm the person who won, like, cover it. Yeah, it's easy enough to find me online, send an email or a tweet or something like that, and that should cover it. So why don't we hit randomize one time, and the topmost name gets to select a plugin from Rocket Lasso. So let's go ahead and click randomize. Oh, it's Bihavana. Yep, Bihavana is the winner for the very first one. Congratulations, free plugin. And I guess just to cover it, I was going to go and start playing some of the different commercials. So if you'll indulge me, here is the commercial to Ricochet, and then we'll start tackling questions. Okie dokie. Let's start regular programming. So I'm going to scroll up randomly. I know people are posting questions, especially with me advertising this episode more. I know there's going to be more people in chat and more people chatting. So more than ever, if I ask a question, or I'm sorry, if you ask a question and I don't get to it and I start wrapping up a question, feel free to post it again so we can tackle it. Get another chance. I'm not always going to find it. So I'm going to scroll around, see if there's any names I don't super recognize. Michael doesn't hang out too often. Let's see what you've got. Question, shapes across animated splines. Well, splines, those are up my alley these days. Mute the tab. Pull the tab over. Come on. Unlink and pull over. What do we got? Ooh, that's cool looking. Oh, okay. I thought it was just like a hole spewing out a bunch of stuff, but it's like a figure walking. So yeah, interesting. Fuse, melt, merge, unite Earth. So this is from Rafa Varona, and it's quite lovely. The basic idea here being animated shapes across splines. You know what? Based on a bit of information that we got the other day, I think we might be able to tackle this more than we might usually, although we might have to sneak in another preview of the upcoming plugin, because the more time that goes by, the more I'm finding out that the upcoming plugin is going to be super duper useful. So I am in no way intentionally, well, let's see, let's do some vanilla, because like I said, I always want to show people a vanilla version of things before we show how a plugin might improve the experience. So let's do a vanilla version of that type of thing. Basically, we need some splines, and we can run some shapes along the splines. We'll keep it relatively simple. The thought here is, what if we ran it through a rig? Let's get like an entire animated character. In fact, let me go find. Well, I guess we've got the cinema character. So if we go into new well, it doesn't have to be under new content. Let's go to, where does it hide? Probably under objects. Find the, where's the motion capture? C4D. Oh, motion capture. There's a whole category. Okay, let's go to the motion capture and find a nice animation. What's something that's going to be, they split them into folders, so you can't preview all of them. What's something that stands out? Climbing. I always like the clapping and jumping. Let's do a cheering one. Why not? Yeah, here's a nice big open cheering. So we'll do that. So I'm clicking download. Downloads nice and quickly. That's like 12 megs. Pull it in, and now we've got some motion capture. So if you're in S24 or R25, you should get all this different motion capture from Maxon. So we've got this animation going. I should be able, let me select one of these. I want to see how long the animation is so we can match it. I'm not sure how long it is, so let's jump that up to 900 and zoom in and just make it perfectly looping, because why not? Deselect, select just the last frame, which is being real particular. There we go. 228 paste. Okay, now that should be approximately looping. Scrolling down so I can see the most recent chat. Demi's asking if there's any runner-ups. We'll just hit randomize again if somebody doesn't show up, but they did. They were here, especially early on. I expect the people to be available. So we've got some motion capture. That's a basic thing I wanted. Now, something that's nice with this is we can click on this tag and say go to reference pose, which will put the character into a T pose. Now, the most basic possible thing we could do here would be just scribbling a spline. I think a spline is going to be our best bet here. So let's go and just draw one. So point mode, and we'll go to spline vertex drawing. Do we want sketch? Yeah, let's do sketch instead. So this can kind of be whatever we want, but depending on the way it's supposed to flow, and if we're going based off the reference, we probably want a lot of things that are, this is not the smooth, like some of these lines are a little bit jittery, and I have to intentionally not strike my old line because it's going to merge them. So I'm intentionally, you see each time I'm trying to make sure I'm not snapping in. So we can keep on drawing additional lines. And it'd be a nice idea. No, actually, I can't. I was going to say let's start from the bottom so they don't overlap, but I can't do that because we need the flow direction to all be the same. So the line, I hit a button so it reset, but I still have my other lines for reference. So a bunch of those ones on the head are all overlapping. But you see I can draw several different lines, and that would be making up the character. And a thing we found out in the last live stream is we are able to select all of those splines. I'm sorry. select all joints, also select the spline, and we can bind that, which is not something that I had known you could do. So if we say bind, then that should bind to that. And now as the character goes into this pose, let's see, go into object mode. Oh, that looks crazy. What do we got going on here? Why did that happen? Did it not bind in that pose? Did everything not bind? Let's try this again. Delete the tag, delete that. Go back to the T pose, go to reference pose. Maybe some points were selected and some weren't. I don't know. I'm going to select all points just to make sure. I'm in object mode. Let's go to move, why not? Select all the children of the motion capture and select the spline and go back to character bind. That should be all we need to do. Now is that going to, yeah, it's something about that. Let me think. Why is that happening? Maybe we just have a very straight line, but look, see, one of those don't, what's going on here? Does only one segment get connected? Because look, look at the head. We've got all those different lines, and those don't seem to be getting bound. Maybe there's more of a limitation than we had realized last time. That seems strange, though. Like even that, like you see how one of them is not seemingly getting bound and everything's all super crazy. Let me think. Let me think. There's somebody saying maybe it needs to connect. You know what? Maybe you're right. Let's try putting in the connect. So these lines are all there. Let's make sure, let's put that to linear and none, so there's no extra subdivisions that's worrying about interpreting. And I'm trying not to use any plugins. I really want to put simplifier or a smooth on there. But let's try that connect thing. Put that into a connect, make it editable, because hey, you never know. When in doubt, select all of the mocap data. Again, select the spline and try binding. Bind. But oh, interesting. Well, everything is bound. I forgot to put it back in the T pose, but everything did bind. We got some weird stretching, but let's go back to T pose. Delete. Select. Oh, T pose, please. Go to reference pose. Select children. Select spline. Character bind. Play. Huh. I'm not sure what the problem was. It could be that the subdivisions were messing it up. There's a good chance maybe that the subdivisions were messing it up, but maybe the connect also did something. But you see it's working now. It kind of looks, let's hide that, and kind of like we got a very skinny Groot going on. It's also very flat. But if even something as simple as this, we've now got a series of lines going, and those lines are something we can travel down. So creating a cloner, and keep it simple, just make a sphere. We'll make it 3-dimensional. The other one, the reference was obviously 2-dimensional. This can be set to object, and the object will be our spline. And let's see if this can accurately see the deformed versions. Let's just see if those are stuck, and I imagine they will be. Yep, excellent. Doing a great job of actually sticking those to the end. And here's where it gets, you know, fun and interesting and pretty simple, is we can say yes, but now you get some rate. And now these should be traveling down the lines. Now it looks like we will get different speeds depending on the length of the line. Something that's important to remember. But yeah, those are now traveling down the shape. They're also moving. They're moving at a inconsistent speed. You see how it's kind of jittery. Intermediate points, none. I would think that'd be fine. But I'm gonna set that to uniform. Hopefully, oh yeah, you see it did. Changing that spline type does break the layout, so it seems like those subdivisions are what actually was the problem. If I undo it, should go back to here. So we're back to the animated character. But yeah, those are moving a little bit jittery. Let's ignore that for now, because the next step I was going to do might work anyway. But this is MoGraph now, so we have a lot of things we can do in addition. For instance, let's put a fall off there, so they'll start out small on the top of the head, and let's see if we can even get to stick there. So adding in a effector. I'll say I want a plane effector, and it's pushing everything out, but let's not do that. Instead, I would like it to scale absolutely uniformly -1, so everything disappears. Fall off, and I would like it to be simple. We'll keep a spherical field. Actually, just throwing it out there, we can do a spherical field, but we also have the option, and let's see if this works. I should save this. Let's go into finale scene files and 1A spline character sphere animated. Okay, so that's now applying everywhere. I was going to do a spherical fall off and try and stick it to the head, but we can drag a spline in directly, and look at that. By dragging in the spline, it is looking at each segment per segment. So you'll see that at the top it's set to 100% and they slowly fade down to 0. But we can control that. This is range start and end, but it's, let's see, do we want to remap that or do we do it follow along curve? I don't know. So let's try dropping that down and pulling this up. Yeah, it looks like I can control it here. So by using this spline, we can actually control it however we like. So my thought is, let's go to, let's have it start at nothing, but I want to pretty quickly scale up. And then at the end, it can a little more slowly scale down. So you see it fades out as it goes. So let's see what that gives us. So now they're not appearing out of nowhere, and they kind of scale in, and then they fade away. Now hide the spline, and now we just get all of those spheres traveling. So yeah, this is a pretty neat technique. So you can see all of those traveling their way down. So now I don't know how well this is going to work, but the obvious fun thing would be, let's try and make it dynamic. My only worry is that once they reach the end, they're going to jump back and they're going to be fighting as they dynamically travel up, but let's just find out. So adding a simulation rigid body, and all we need is some follow position. Should be all we need. Hit play and let's see what happens. Okay, so they are, what are they doing? Why are they falling from the sky? Wee, 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 wee. I'm not sure why they're falling from the sky. It could be that they're shrinking down to 0 and then dynamically it doesn't know what to do with something that's shrunk down to nothing. So let's not have them shrink quite all the way. So back to that plane effector. And let's go to the effector and lower the strength a bit so they never go down to 0. And I want to see if we can observe. Okay, I'm going to shrink them not at all. And yeah, okay, it is doing, unfortunately, what I said, which is when they reach the end, they're jumping back to the beginning, which is sort of expected. So we just have to keep in mind that that is indeed happening. Now, you can shrink them down really tiny. They won't be having much of an effect as they travel up. So if that's bothering you, that would be potentially something you'd have to deal with. Let's try creating more. So now we've got him. It's looking a little wonky there. Let's tell it to stick a bit more. Let's go up to 15. So now they can't overlap, and they're traveling around doing their thing, fading out as they go. They appear on the head. I'm trying to think of something different I want to do. What's cool is like you can colorize them via this spline. We have more splines. Well, I mean, the head gets super cluttered because so many different splines. We're starting right at the head, but that's only because we were following the reference to do it. But yeah, it's a pretty cool. It's a pretty good, cool methodology to. I haven't really seen something like this. Trying to think of other things we might do. There would be ways of potentially getting around this, them traveling from the bottom up to the top, where you'd want to make a lot more of them and they'd suddenly be appearing from the top going down, but I'm not sure that that would work. But I think our current method is working pretty well. But yeah, those are traveling down. Of course, we have a lot of options here. We could inverse that or reverse that. And now they're going to be traveling upward and then disappearing. We can add a lot of rate variation on there. So they're traveling at different speeds, which could help hide some of those imperfections. We could be changing the scale of them at various spots because we see that they do shrink down a lot at the head and they're eating up a lot of space. So that plane effector, we could go into its field and say, maybe we do give that a little bit more fade. Ooh, that's a lot. Let's go easy on that. What do I want? Maybe something partially. Yeah, something there. So now they're shrinking a little bit more so the head's not that much space is being eaten up by it. And yeah, even building something like that where they're traveling. Yeah, I feel inclined to make another. Let's see, I'm gonna make a cloner, and that cloner will be set to no rate, no variation. I want there to be exactly 1. but not per. I'm going to turn off per segment and make exactly one. Make that be a very large sphere, and also I want this to not be affected by the plane. There we go. So by making exactly one, and I told it to ignore segments, so now there is literally exactly one, and it's starting right at the beginning, so that is now automatically using the cloner to stick it right where the head would be. I could grab this and drag it through. It is dynamic, so keep that in mind. Oh, it's probably the start, actually. I could pull this through, and you'll see it will travel. So I could place this kind of anywhere I want, but and maybe down a little bit would be a good idea. Yeah, so that gives us a head, but it's also a dynamic sphere. We did it with a cloner, so we didn't have to worry about stick tags or telling it to chase a particular spot. Just using the cloner automatically is telling it where it's supposed to be. And we have additional options we could do there, where maybe there's one on the foot, one on the ground. But yeah, look at this kind of cool bubble guy. It's really neat. Very different than the original reference, but I think it got us to someplace really cool. Is there anything? I'm trying to think of cool things we could add on top of this. What do we want to layer? Because obviously we can continue layering more and more. So does anybody have any cool ideas of what to do on top of this before we move on? Because we didn't end up using any of the plugins, just to show you what one of the thoughts had been. I will save that because it's looking awesome. We can go back to that original spline here, and let me temporarily hide those boxes. With the upcoming plugin, if I go and do this, and this will hopefully be launching late this month, maybe early next month, I can grab a smooth, and this smooth spline will accept any spline. So I can feed that in, and you're going to see it's instantly going to be smoothing out those existing lines. So where they look really harsh right now, I can be like, no, smooth them out, and now it gets a lot smoother. We can check out where the subdivisions are happening. In fact, I could say I want to reorder those by doing something like a step absolute, and now it's going to do a certain number of subdivisions depending on what I put in there. So you can see it's subdivided more evenly, and then the smoothing can be a little bit more uniform that way. So now that that's happening, it will animate. So we already tested that last week, where you can see that's a nice smooth kind of figure, and that would be a smoother spine for it to follow. Once they become dynamic, that doesn't make too big of a difference, but yeah, the ability to make that smooth is pretty cool. But yeah, considering how sloppy we were by just making a few of these lines, and I was just showing you what the smooth did because I had mentioned it, but let's get rid of that and just turn these back on again because that's looking pretty cool. Burp. Hide the spine. Yeah. Bubble guy. Total baller. Totally. Yeah, emit. I wonder if we could emit. I'm not sure. Checking. Would it work with other geo? Yeah, this would, Joel, this would work with any geometry we feed in. Let's create a cube. It's going to be a little bit large. We'll shrink that down. Drop that in as well. And now every other one will be a cube doing the same thing. Let's make the cube also dynamic. There we go. So cubes and spheres now. Pull out the sphere, and now it could just be cube guy with all these lumpy cubes traveling up. Those cubes, let's make it 2 by 2 by 25. So now we get all these crazy sticks. I guess those are not terribly happy dynamically speaking. What's our collision type? Let's set those to boxes. It's still a little... It's very kind of crazy jittery. I'm not sure. Yeah, something is like, no, I don't like this. And it's creating a cascade effect. You see in the beginning, it's actually pretty stable, but then it kind of loses it. I wonder if we could switch those to actually be calculated as ellipsoids, and if that would work. It's a good way of tricking them into being something more coherent. We could also increase the sets per frame. I'm not sure. Expert. Sets per frame 25. Well, that just makes it worse. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, not sure. I mean, these are relatively small, so maybe the overall scale should be smaller. Actually, no. I thought it helped, but it didn't. But anyway. Yeah, these skinny cubes it's not as happy with, but let's shrink them down, and that's pretty coherent. So yeah, something about those long ones it doesn't like. But yeah, we could totally swap in any shape we want there. Make these any base scale we want. Let's make them way... Well, let's see how big we can go. Yeah, it's still sort of a character. It's just a bunch of cubes traveling through. And then, we automatically made this animated, but we could say, no, don't worry about animation. So now it's static, and even along those lines, like, yes, that's now static. And then they don't have to scale. Let's turn off that plane effector, and now it's just a bunch of dynamic cube guy. Let's turn on automatic again. So yeah, look, he's just a big box of cubes trying to stay on these lines, and that could be any number of splines. So it's kind of like Last Airbender when puts on a rock suit and you just see the face coming out. But yeah, look at that instant character on top of it. So we're using, like, how easy is that to make a character? To take some motion capture, draw a couple of lines, and then just clone shapes onto it, and then instant character. Boing, boing, boing. And yeah, that could be running any character animation. Pretty cool. I like it. Brendan, thanks. Appreciated. Yeah, the sticks are more like a Christmas tree. Yeah, we could totally... can you do the opposite? Bind a skeleton to follow a spline. Sort of. That's just a spline IK would be the way to do that, but it wouldn't be as simple as this. And then you'd have to animate the spline in some way. But yeah, that's really cool. Great first question. I really liked it. Oh yeah, somebody asked in the Rocket Lasso Slack, somebody was asking with what do you do if somebody's covered in bees? And this would work really well as well. If you're doing the bees, you should definitely set these to ellipsoid. And then even on top of that, keep in mind that this is super basic. But let's just continue for a second and say that these are the bees. I kind of like the look of this, so I will save it as the next version. But then let's say that this is supposed to, well, I don't have a character underneath it, so if there was a dynamic character underneath it to be colliding with, then obviously that would be good. But let's just say that this is supposed to be like a big pile of, a character made of a big pile of bees, which is a fairly common meme in shows and video games and whatnot. So if we make them a little bit smaller, I think it's running quick enough that I can add a few more. Nope. Hit play, let those spread out. Yeah, so it's going to fill up a bit. So yeah, you've got smaller ones. Let's just say that those are bugs. I want them to calculate as quickly as possible, so I'm going to change the shape to ellipsoid. If they were supposed to have a direction, we could give them a follow rotation. But let's just layer up on top of this base motion a new plane effector. Actually, let's keep it even simpler, I think. We'll just do a random. So the random will affect position and make sure that they are indexed, so it's choosing each one randomly. And we want to be noise-based. Probably, well, I don't know how it will look, so we'll try the different one. So now you see a bunch of them swarming around, but when he goes, you can definitely still see him jumping around doing the jumping jacks thing. And these are all just trying to get to that position. So the animation speed, we can lower that. Yeah, that's slower. All that twirling could be making it a little nauseating to look at. So let's lock them in, or at least drain out a lot of their energy. So yeah, no, they're not twirling as much. And we got a bunch of those boxes. They're trying to get where they want to go. We could say dynamically, like, yes, get where you're trying to go, but less, and now they'll take longer to get there. Or even put some drag in there. A little drag goes a long way. Turn off gravity as well. Control D, gravity 0. And yeah, see, they're just kind of slowly moving around a bit from that randomness, and then they do feel like they're snapping quite a bit to that location instead of just following the position. If I say follow position 0, yeah, everything will just drift. If I say 1, do they slowly move? Yeah, okay, they do. Okay, I just want to make sure. 5 was stronger than I thought it would be. See, now they're very slowly drifting the position. So you got to find that right balance. Let's try 3. So yeah, now you can kind of see the different bits getting to where they're going. The random, potentially don't want to go as far. So let's say 15, 15, 15. Then increase the speed, 55 perhaps. And yeah, so you get a little bit more of a swarm of bees. And yeah, these will all be kind of fighting, trying to pass through each other, rotate through. Well, push each other out of the way as they go, and slowly takes on the form of the character. And based on how much you're following and how much drag you put on there, if we get rid of this drag, it's going to presumably be moving a lot quicker. Yeah, you see it's all snappy, and it might even overshoot a bit. So yeah, a lot of possibilities here. I should probably make a whole tutorial out of this, because this is pretty great. There's a lot of fun to be had on this one. And I do think it would combo really well with some of the you could have made your lines potentially with ricochet, or convert a character to splines with mesh to spline. And then smoothing, obviously you saw how you could smooth the lines out, but even here, just totally vanilla, like lots of cool possibilities. So I'll just save this one as bees. C_bees. Excellent. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to explore there. Yeah, it definitely has a Groot thing going on. Not the bees. Exactly. Yeah, really fun. Thanks for the question. And that's why I like something like this, where we didn't try and literally make that, but instead we're like, hey, wait, we can make this have splines. Oh, wait, we made this have splines. Oh, wait, the splines can do something else. And it creates a lot of possibilities. Even think about it. Like, imagine we made only a few strands of hair. Oh, now I got to do this. Let's see if this works. So we've kind of got this base character, and it's doing its thing. I want it to be less bee-like, so I'm going to close that and open up the second file. So this is just a little more static. But what if we want to try and make some hair on this character? I just want to see if we can get this to work okay. And let's say we want the hair to kind of do that flowing thing. What's a good way to do it? I think we kind of need the head to not be this sphere. We need it to be something that's actually statically there, because I was going to create some actual hairs on it. I don't think, I mean, I was doing it this nice, simple way, but an alternative would be make a new sphere, and then I'll just lock this. Yeah, this is still simple. Let's lock it to a align to spline. That sphere wants to align to a spline. The spline shall be this spline. And it's going to only see the first segment, so you instantly see it's like traveling to that line. Actually, here's the different segments. Let's find one that's a little bit better. That one's fine. So now that head is just stuck there. And we can say tangential, so that should really lock it in. Making it editable. I'm not going to go super crazy on here. Let's just add hair to the entire thing. So select the entire thing. Simulation. Add hair. So now we get these hairs. Yeah, well, honestly, we can even kind of leave it like that. So that head should... I'm in polygon mode, but if I deselect object mode... Wait, why is that not sticking? Tangential. Connect. That's interesting. It's not sticking to the animated character. But this is moving. So why is it not sticking? I thought it'd be really simple to get that to stick. We've got alternatives, but I'm not sure why that isn't instantly sticking. I mean, the absolute simplest thing we could do would be just lock. I mean, we don't need that to be on the spline. So let me just add on a rigging constraint tag and constrain it to the transform, which is old PSR, to the spine, neck, head. So there's the head. So I'd like to just have that locked to the head. So now you see it snap to the head. Now it should be forced to go wherever the original mocap goes. And now, yeah, indeed, you can see it there. And then we get the character jumping around with all this crazy hair. But let's see what this does. If we go to hair, we could say, you know what? It does not actually, let's go to generate and say it doesn't actually make hair. It doesn't render hair, but it does generate splines. Oh dear. Pause. Okay, I forgot. It's now created 5,000 splines. I'm shocked it ran that quick. Under hairs, let's not say to generate 50,000 splines, each with 12 segments. I'm so glad that handled it. I'm going to change the hairs to generate as guides, and now there's only that many. Okay, so now this is actually a spline object. And with that being a spline object, I want to duplicate those cubes. And let's say that we're cloning onto the hair. So hair. Okay, now, there's a lot more going on, so maybe we'll calm this down a bit. Let's make there not be quite so many, just because there's a lot going on now. So back to the guides. I'll set this down to, currently it's on polygon vertex. I'll say I just want it to be polygon area, and I can type in any number I want, so I'll drop it down to 35. And now you see there's a lot fewer. And this cloner doesn't need to generate nearly as many. Drop it down to 15. Yeah, this will probably still not be the super quickest, but oh, not bad dropping it down. So anyway, now you can see that those individual hairs are driving wherever the body goes, and we've got these tentacles going. Put on a little bit of rate on top of that. And let's see, what direction is it traveling? They are dynamic. It's a little difficult to see. Yeah, very difficult to see the direction. I guess they're traveling downward. Whee. But yeah, now it's kind of constantly raining. They do seem to get a little confused by hitting the end. Maybe they're hitting the end and instantly teleporting in the beginning because of the way that they're stuck. So this would probably be a good reason to apply that along the spline thing. So this currently has that plane But let's feed the one we turned off in. Turn that back on. Now they're scaling down. They're scaling down, though, based on this field of the original connect. So the fall off's going to be really weird. Instead, I'm going to say, no, reference the hair. So now those should be matching the hair. And based on the curve we get from the hair is going to determine how those are showing up. This original one is still being fed that plane effector, so I'll delete that there. Now the character's back, and now we get these hairs going depending on the fall off we do in the field hair fall off. Yeah. So if I pull this up closer, you'll see that they're going to be bigger there, and we'll let them slowly fade out. I still want them tiny in the very beginning so they can scale up. But yeah, now they should be mostly traveling down, depending on how much we stick. Actually, I mean, these don't have to be dynamic. You just delete the dynamics, and now you can see we get those traveling on the hair running really quick, but they're not dynamic, so we just see those nice finals. So generally a good idea to do an order of operations here, but yeah, look at that, not too bad. Let's increase the number. I think it can handle. Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities here. Lots. Scale those up a bit. There we go. Aha. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it's cool. And there's a lot to layer up and have fun with. Save. Okay, let's jump on to a new topic. Underscore here. Yeah, definitely more to explore there, though. Very cool. Let me see if anybody's asking any questions recently. Joel's asking if that was from, I don't see, it doesn't seem to be specifically, if you're asking about the reference here, it does not seem to be from 2016 AICP. Just seems to be somebody's animation, but pretty cool. I don't see any specific questions from YouTube, so we'll jump back to Twitch, but before we do that, let's do another giveaway for anybody who might have shown up late. I'm now, right now, going to copy. Here's our text. I'm going to select all. Oops, don't save. Select all, copy, and paste. And then select all, copy, and paste the chat from YouTube and from Twitch. And then I'm going to scroll up, and I haven't yet, but I'm going to hit randomize. And the first name up at the top, as many as we have to go down to see it, we are going to choose a winner. Make sure if you're the winner to email me afterward or message me on Twitter or something, even on Twitch, and then I'll see it. And then you get to choose a Rocket Lasso plugin. But before I hit on that, let's go and do the next commercial for the next plugin we had done, and that was Mesh to Spline. Be right back. Okay, doesn't seem to, oh, okay, give me a second. I renamed the folder that things lived in, so I guess it broke the link to that one. Can I change it while live? That seems dangerous, but I'm going to do it anyway. How do I do this? I can't go to this menu without clicking on Mesh to Spline. I'll just pull it up on the desktop. Give me a second. Apologies. Opening a folder. Find Mesh to Spline. Find, oh, it's actually the Mesh to Spline marketing folder, which is different than the Mesh to Spline folder. Videos. Commercial high res. Okay, I'm gonna just go to a full desktop. Hopefully the audio comes through. Bum, bum, bum. Yep. That's mesh to spline. I like that one. I like that tool a lot. Let me switch the screen over. Boing. Okay, so let us hit randomize and see who we get. So randomize, and the winner is J Hall. J Hall, what's up from Dallas? From J Hall. You have won a copy of one of the spline plugins. Make your choice, or if you've already got those, you could also choose recall as an option. But make sure to email me or hit me up on Twitch if, yeah, whichever way you want to do it. But they have to be here. So J Hall, are you here? Are you here? Was J Hall in YouTube or in? Oh, they are in YouTube. So it looks like they were talking recently. So yep, excellent. They are here. So, oh, J Hall. Yeah, it was J. There's a J Hall and a J Holden who are two different people. So I was like, oh, did I say the wrong one? But no, it's J Hall. Okay, cool. We do have a person. Thank you, everybody. And let's move on. Tackle some more questions. Scrolling. Question from Pierre. How would you animate a ball deforming cloth like in this image? Let's find out. Oh yeah, and I'll say, yeah, because Behavana almost won again. There's no repeats. If you won once today, you don't win a second time. And if the top name isn't there, and yeah, I'm gonna change the rule. If the top name isn't there and they're not here, then we'll just move down to the next name of that same randomize. So let's go ahead and click this link. I'm waiting for it to load up so I can see it. It's Wall Street Journal. Hopefully it doesn't put me behind the paywall. Okay, seems to be working. Let me mute the tab just in case it starts some audio ad or something. All right. Well, first of all, that looks pretty cool. This is from Daniel Arsham. Daniel Arsham. So obviously there's somebody who does physical media installation pieces. So moving basketball. So yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it's amazing how much that implies motion. Like obviously that's a still, it's a sculpture or some cloth that they stiffened. But anyway, the question for us was, can we do that? I mean, yes. There's a level that I don't know. There's a lot of artistic liberty here. If we were to run this as a simulation, I don't think it would look quite like this. So I don't expect to see it exactly like it. Let's do what we can as quickly as we can, because I'd like to tackle a bunch of questions. I know we're already almost halfway through, but let us attempt something relatively simple. Let's keep it square, which is simple. 55 by 55, so it doesn't take too long. I mean, honestly, it even goes to, I don't know how much time I should even spend on this, because I think everybody already knows where I'm going to go with it. We just need to keyframe this and collide with it. It mostly turns into how can we make it sort of stick. And the alternative goes to maybe doing it with a series of deformers, which is not a bad idea either. I would sort of like these edges to stick, but in order to do that, I'm gonna make this editable and select all shrink, invert, and now I've got the outline. We'll do it with cloth to start out with, because that is really easy to pin. So programming, no, simulation, not cloth belt, just cloth. Dresser, fix points. So those are fixed. If I hit play, it should go bloop, and it goes all wobbly from the bottom. I'm going to change my display to crisp mode so it hides the grid. Okay, so forces, gravity, none. So that should not go anywhere. And now we're free to animate this basketball how we please. We can just keyframe it. But you know what? Let's, we will keyframe it. But, and I guess we're looking at it from the opposite side. That's fine. I'm going to draw a spline. So let's use a spline pen and have it start where it starts, and then collide in, and then maybe even move up. And here I'm making the spline so it's really, we can independently change the speed, and then I can very easily do something like this where I'm moving these. And then we might even need like additional points. So it's going to go down, collide. So yeah, you can see why I built it that way. So sphere, right click, animation, align to spline. The spline is this spline. Tangent doesn't matter. Keyframing the position. Let's make it linear. Control D. Animation linear, please. So now there's not easing in and easing out. Thus, I can keyframe the position. We'll just go to the end and keyframe to the end. Okay, simple as that. Add in a simulation cloth collider. And whenever you're doing simulation, good idea to save right away. Cloth impact. Important to note that as I save these files, you can get access to all of these files on Patreon if you're supporting on Patreon. There's also other perks on Patreon as well, but let's not get into that right now. Let me scoot this up so it's not already colliding with the ground at the start. And maybe I'll add a little curve in there. Okay, so let's add, yeah, cloth colliders in there, so it should be everything we need. Save and hit play. Oh, I guess we're at the end. Okay, it's starting from the beginning. That's fine, that's fine. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's colliding, it's fine. Now, changing settings. I think we need a lot of friction if that is a thing. Ooh, this layout. Ooh, I don't like this layout as much. They rearranged a lot of the settings, and these used to be side by side, but now they made them tall. But in any case, what do we got? Stiffness, flex, rubber, bounce, friction. What does that mean? Bounce, friction. I want 0 bounce, lots of friction. Can it go above 100? No, but you can do additional iterations. So we'll try that under the spear. I can say no bounce, lots of friction. Can we go above 100? No, we cannot. Let's see what that does. Catch it, catch it, catch it. Nope, it's just wrinkling out of the way. Additional thought. Let's spin the spear. I don't think it's going to work, but it's an idea. Keyframe at the beginning. Go to the end, and I'm going to say that over the course of its animation, it's going to spin around and around and around. Not too many times, but enough that we should be able to easily see it. So now it's spinning. Oh, wow. Okay, that super made a difference. Okay, so, okay. Didn't think that would work, but I wasn't sure, which is why I tried it. Let's drop that amount down. About half the amount. Check out what that does. Not bad. Okay, so now we need to make some tweaks. Let's have that not dip down as far. Are we at the beginning? Yeah, so it's going to start out over there. So honestly, we want it to kind of quickly get in. And then it can, I'm going to knife K from the knife tool. And I can select that, and I have a second point where I kind of want to stay down low for a little bit before rising up. Let's just see what that does. Okay, yeah, catches it, starts pulling through. Still a little bit low, so I'll select both of the middle points. Where are you? There. And just scoot up. I mean, a little bit's going to go a long way. So try that. Does it catch? Ooh, yeah, it does catch. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of getting where we want it to be. But this is like, you see it's punching a hole through, but we are getting a pretty good wrinkle from it. So if we can get the right amount, the right shape going, that can give you the basis. But like I said, there's a lot of artistic interpretation here. So you can see very much that our shape is stretching those forward. And if you look at this, which is more artistic, there's more lines implied. But I don't think that's the way cloth would necessarily fold up, or you'd see these wrinkles really traveling out towards the edge. So if this was a much larger plane, I think we'd be seeing the effect a lot more as we continue going. But we don't want this to go so deep that it like wraps over it, but with all the friction that's almost guaranteed to happen. There's a lot of like tricky things to layer up, and when it comes to these types of simulations, like we could spend all day like tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and trying to get it just barely perfectly working, changing the friction amount, because even here, see, by moving up that little bit, it wasn't quite enough for the friction to catch to make it roll over. So there's a lot of push and pull here. But yeah, look, we get a nice looking wrinkle from that. So let's call that a good experiment as far as doing it as a simulation. There is a point in which I would say you just want to sculpt it. Like sculpting, I mean, this is not a good venue for sculpting. The live streams are not great for sculpting, but don't underestimate the ability to, I'll just copy that to new file. So not terribly many polygons, but let's change to sculpt mode. And what do we got? So we got sculpting options. Where's our objects? Objects here. I would like to, how do we do this? I don't sculpt very often. How do we increase the layers, the subdivisions? Looks like that might have been it. Maybe. Layers. Why isn't there just a like subdivide more or less? Where's the button for that? Oh dear. Doesn't seem to have liked something I just did. What did I do? I'm gonna give that a second to think, but I might have frozen cinema. But we've been saving as we go, so we didn't lose anything. Scroll, 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 scroll. Yeah, I think I killed it. I'm gonna open up the task manager. While we might be able to get it working, let's just reset. Yeah, I was gonna say the sculpting would be a basic way of doing it. It seems like my slight unfamiliarity with the new layout. I'm not quite sure where some of the buttons are for the sculpting. Bunk. Window, layout, sculpt, plane, 50 by 50. We'll try this one last time. How do I subdivide that? Subdivide the sculpt up a level. Yeah, it seems like that's what it should be. So sculpt up a level. And then I should be able to sculpt on it, right? Did I just froze it again. Huh. I don't know if there's a bug or if I'm like on a very, well, I think there's a bug there no matter what, but I don't think I just did anything too dangerous. Just by clicking on that sculpt tool, it seems to have killed it. So if anybody from Maxon's watching, I think we just found a bug. All right. Well, I was going to say that was the second method, was sculpting. Actually, I did have already, I had R23 open. So let's, or I'm sorry, S24. Let's quickly try there and see if I do something different. Sculpt. That's something I do like in 25 is I just change the layout and jump to a different monitor, where in 25 it knows to stay on the same monitor. Okay, so I've got that selected. I would like to subdivide. I like the word subdivide there. And now if I click, was I clicking draw? I figure, I don't know. I like seeing the words more here for sure, because these are all very visually similar. Maybe it's just draw. Yeah, that's not freezing. I feel like I just did the same steps. But I don't know, maybe not. But yeah, just spending time and going through and artistically, manually doing something. I'm not going to get a good result here. But if you were to spend time, paint the things in. Is it Alt or Shift? What does the opposite? Yeah, Shift does the opposite. But yeah, you can start painting in and starting to layer things, and then run smoothing on top of it and get the layers. Shift, shrink in. Maybe Shift just goes to smooth. Control? Yeah, Control does the opposite. Shift apparently just turns on smooth, which is kind of neat. Smooth, 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 smooth. Middle mouse button to increase or decrease. Like fade these out. Yeah, you see. I mean, it's not looking amazing, but I think pretty quickly you could start sculpting in something that's going to look neat if you're going for a still. But yeah, that's pretty much as much time as I was going to spend there before I was going to say. And then a third method would be trying to build a rig that could do this type of thing, which in a lot of ways might be the best of both worlds, but it would require a lot of time. And I have seen people make things like a wave generator and, you know, as a series of layered up deformers. So yeah, it really turns into a series of deformations, and would be a way I'd want to do this. Like if we make a plane effector, treat that as a deformer of the points. I want it to be absolute. How do we make that go up? I want it to be relative to the effector there. Now it pushes up into the air. Based on that, say that we just start layering up some fields. So I could say, give me a spherical field, and that becomes your main layer, but then that can get ramped several times. A simple thing here would be creating a curve. You could do this with some sort of formula, but I'll just do like a very simple method there where you get, you start building that type of fall off, and then just keep on layering additional fall offs. Let's do a box field that can multiply, stretch your way out, invert, remapping, invert. Oh yeah, another check. They made everything very vertically stacked, where I really like horizontal lines. So invert used to be after strength at the end, and now it's underneath it, which visually I think takes up more space. But oh, I guess I didn't want to invert that. Make that longer, create a fall off. Even that could potentially, box field please. Pull this in, let that start fading out. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to spend too long doing it, but if you spend some time, you can start layering up things where it's like, oh, this is just a single plane, and we're already getting it to sort of give this type of effect, and our ability to stretch things. Even I think the sphere T for scale, can we? Pretty sure we can stretch these if we go to object mode. Yeah, so if we go to object mode, I can stretch that out and stretch those on the different axes. Go back to model. I always go back to model because you don't want to accidentally scale something unless you're very intentionally trying to do it. And yeah, just layering and layering this type of thing. I don't want to go too deep on it because, once again, it's very open to interpretation. So just throwing that out there, though. Save. Well, I guess I'll just say B. Okay, that was a quick one. Let's see if we got another question. Let's see. No questions on YouTube. Lots of people, but nobody asking questions. Scrolling. So much chat's happening that I have to scroll pretty far back up to get to the older questions. Is that the same one I saw before? No, it's a different one. Okay, so, oh dear. Mute. I don't, here's a question from Umbrella, but I don't think that we're going to be able to tackle too much here. I've seen this type of thing before. I've seen people that like spend months developing this type of thing. It's pretty cool. Especially because it just looks like a picture, but then it's being treated as a bunch of paint. But I do feel like there's some sort of stretchy, dynamic-y stuff going here. You can even see right here at the end. You see right some of those. Do you see how that line? Right. Watch where my mouse is. Right, where something travels there. You see it kind of goes wobbling back and forth in a way that's stretching and not just being left behind. So I think this is some sort of stretchy, dynamic simulation where bits are being left behind. This is from On and On, from On and On Studio. 6 weeks ago, they didn't respond on what they did. I'm not even sure what software they're using in general. I'm trying to think if we have any approach here that would be anything akin to what we're seeing here. You could make something highly subdivided, run a soft body simulation on it with a lot of friction, but no worry of collision, maybe. That would be very resolution dependent, and it might give you some nice smears, but I don't think it's going to leave these like lovely tracks. But maybe these tracks are just being created No, see, there's kind of tearing through. I definitely feel some tearing. That's how you see those lines. It's cool. And I like this, the way it deforms before it's moving in. Yeah, the technique I was just talking about is the only one that even gives me anything. I don't think it's going to go that far for us. But I'm always down for giving it a try. So you see we're not going absurdly subdivided, but decent number of subdivisions. Then, honestly, I kind of want to do a vertex color map. That might be neat. Make it editable. Where does that tag hide? Oh, I know. It's under, if I right click, it's under other vertex color tag. Okay, so this is now colorizing the tags. I would like it to take on a color of some sort. So we need to go to the tag, please. Turn on fields. Under fields, don't worry about freezing, but what I would like is a color, which is going to be on the main one. We need a shader field. The shader field can be fed an image. The projection might not work, so we can link directly. Make a new material, double click, apply. That should be fine. And we need to load in some sort of image. So inside the material, under the colors, just fine. Actually, here's a bunch of thumbnails of the different episodes. So let's just grab a kind of colorful looking one. That'll do. Don't worry about copying. And now you see that there's a vertex map based color. It's actually kind of surprising how nice the, never mind, that's not the vertex map. That is just the raw image. But if I'm going to say don't show just by typing in something, you type in any gibberish in there. If there's not a tag for it, it just doesn't show up. So now, but it can still be fed into our shader field. So shader field, I would like you to look at the color channel of that material. And this is the resolution I was expecting. I was like, wow, that looks really clear. But we don't have that many subdivisions. But anyway, these colors are now actually associated with these points. I wonder if we could freeze this and then turn it off, because I don't know if the deformation is going to be a good idea or not. So freeze, I'll just say freeze. Turn that off, and yeah, it's going to keep that color. We could probably even just delete this, honestly. It doesn't need to keep, let me show you. I don't even need to delete that. I can just say, hey, don't not enable, but don't be a field anymore, but it's still remembering what came before. But anyway, we've now just colorized those. Let's save it. 3A. Paint. Soft body test. Okay. What's the best way? Cube. Oh, another thing. I'm going to make a new material and tell that material's color channel to look at the vertex map. This entire vertex map thing might have been a red herring. We probably could have done it directly with the material, but I don't know, kind of fun to feed it through a vertex map. So now it's a color channel coming through the vertex map. Back to the cube. I would like the model to shrink, scoot up. We're going to keep this nice and low res. Okay. Subdivisions along Z. Let's do 11. Make it editable. I did an odd number so that when we go to polygon mode, it's easy to say you, and you. D, extrude down. Okay, there's our most basic of brushes and or combs. And once again, this is just a tech demo idea. I don't know if it's necessary. We could sharpen these up, like shrink them down so they become a little more pointy. So it's going to kind of scoot things in that direction. Couldn't hurt. So I'll scoot these all down to 30. We could do a setting to do all these at once, but I'm not sure of the correct setting, so manually will be quicker for now. Yep. Okay. Bring it back. Now, back to model mode. Scoot this backward. Do we want it to be tilted in some way? We probably do, but let's not do it yet. Okay. The plane shall be a simulation soft body. It needs some very specific settings, though. Don't self-collide. Very important. Control D. No gravity. Next up, it's going to be getting moved around, but I want it to stop very quickly. So I don't know how good of an idea this is, but we're going to put a lot of damping in all the different settings, because we really want to freeze it. And then we also want it to break. Yeah, so let's put an elastic limit. I'm going to essentially put it down to almost nothing. So it's got a very, very small elastic limit, so it can break quickly. Let's do it here as well. If it bends or pulls at all, it becomes permanent. Plastic deformation. Then I think we need some friction. Yeah, let's just do it with friction. So simulate forces, friction. I'm not sure a great number, but we'll start out with 100. This comb or brush will be our rigid body. And don't be automatic, although that might work. I want it to be a moving mesh, so it's seeing these individual spikes. Probably would have been a better idea to, and I think about it, it would have been a better idea to clone a series of cylinders or spheres. That would have been way better. We can still do that, but let's give this a go. Keyframes. And I just have no idea what we're going to get as a result. So we'll just fast forward to the end. And did I say, oh, I made it dynamic body. I'm going to say a dynamic off because I need to be able to animate it. So now I can, hey, what is going on here? Dynamic off. Why is it not letting me move it? Did I do something wrong? Right click. Simulation, collider body, off. Now I'm allowed to move. Huh. I'm not sure what I did there. Static mesh right away, though. Anyway, that at the end will move over to there. I just want to see what happens. We need to gather data. Okay. So, let's just hit play and see what happens. Smush, 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 smush. Okay. Doing a fine job of stretching and tearing. Obviously, the entire thing is moving. We could be running into that weird soft body limitation, but for now, I'll say really stick to your position and rotation, which should hopefully stop those from moving too much. They might move a little bit visually, but yeah, see, that's going to counter move. But you can actually see that's doing a reasonably good job of sort of tearing through and smearing the entire thing. Now, they will never, this setup won't tear, but we are getting them to stretch. Yeah, that counter movement. I've kind of talked about it. It's only something I kind of partially understand, but soft bodies are kind of within like a bounding box almost. And so as this pulls away from one, the other side counteracts because it's trying to keep the same center of mass type of thing. And because we're telling it not to move, it's kind of deforming the entire thing. Yeah. So let me think. What are we getting from this? Like that's just plowing through. The other one has a nice bunching up, but then eventually they do flow through. So several things in our soft body, we could really, let's go and really weaken that. Let's really weaken the shear and the flexion. Although with a really strong damping, which could be coming from friction. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of all the damping. No damping. It should be really wiggly now. But actually, I'm probably going to crank that back up again. Yeah, you see it doesn't make too big of a difference because the friction is mainly what's pulling the energy out. That really high friction. Really stretchy. But it is doing, I don't know, in some ways it's better than I thought it'd be. In some ways it's worse than I thought it'd be. I kind of didn't think about the counter moving, which in a lot of ways just completely ruins the effect. Like as soon as that starts moving back the other way, it's like, well, that's not working at all. But these streaks working decent. But yeah. Yeah. I was hoping when I got to the step that it would just intuitively tell me what the next step should be. But unfortunately, it really isn't. I'm going to give it a little bit of a spin just so we can see it, but I don't think it's going to do too much for us. Couple extra keyframes. Let's see what we get. Ooh, getting all kind of stretchy. Well, I mean, it looks crazy, but not exactly what I'm going for. Friction. More friction. Nope, not 0 friction. 1,000 friction. Actually, I was about to say, as soon as I click this, it's going to freak out because 1,000 friction is too much. It doesn't like that. But maybe 200. Nope, 200 is too much. Apparently 100 is the best we can do. Scroll. Crossfader saying that it was a flip fluid sim. Not surprising. I'm just trying to see if there's other methods we could do. The yeah, I guess if it was just if this was a grid of particles taking on the color, and we even like blob them together, then we could just be smearing the particles around, and then potentially you can even make a system that says, okay, particle, if you get too far away from a different thing, like generate more particles to like smear it out if you want to, or you just need a lot of particles to start out with, would be the would be a way of doing it. That wouldn't take on the color. The cloner would override color. I'm trying to think of any way I would want to do some streaks here. We could make a grid of spheres and have the spheres get pushed around, and then put tracers on them, and the tracers could be taking on the color of the sphere. It could work for creating trails, but then they wouldn't get affected when pushed again. And these aren't like dynamic splines that are being generated, so you couldn't like re-smear them. So like, yeah, big giant particle simulation would be the only one I can think of. Demi's asking, is it possible to record functions like the magnet or smooth geometry on record functions like magnet or smooth on geometries as they get applied by the user? Oh, I see. I think I know what you mean, where essentially, like, if you wanted to keyframe and play back a stop motion of you sculpting something, is what you're asking. That's a neat idea. Cinema doesn't do that by default. Having said that, could you kind of manually do it? I like this question. It's neat. The sculpting tools were not treating us well, but if I just do a very subdivided sphere, maybe we can get something working and not subdivide. Yeah, and the paint, yeah, unfortunately, kind of dead ending there. Okay, so here's a thought. First of all, let's go to point mode, and I would like to go to the sculpt. Interesting. So, well, we keep crashing. Well, when we kept doing sculpt, it kept crashing on us. And then something that's kind of interesting is I just want to load sculpt, but if I click this, it doesn't go to that mode. It shows it in the menu bar, as I thought it would kind of do. So we can go to customize layouts and then load the layout, but if it's not one of your regular ones, that's not keeping you going very speedy. Now that says it's push or pull. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we didn't even subdivide, and that is instantly crashing. So there's just a horrible bug inside of sculpting, and somebody else said they did it too, so it's not just me. So yeah, there's something, I don't know if that tool or what, but I guess we can use the magnet tool or the iron tool. Bing. Okay. Sphere. Subdivided. Editable. And magnet tool. I don't use a magnet tool too often. Shift C. Magnets. Magnet modeling tool. MI. Blurp blurp. Oh, that is it's not oh, smear pull. Okay, that's, well, oh, but it only pulls a spot surface. Doesn't, yeah, that doesn't work like the sculpting tools do. Does it? I want to, Yeah, I mean, essentially, I want the sculpting tool to work here. Super dangerous, but I'm going to go into... Where does that hide? Mesh, sculpt. I don't want to subdivide, I just want a brush. And that's draw we're clicking on. Just give me... I think that's the one I want, though. Let's do grab. Nope, grab is the same as magnet. Come now. Alright, well, we're not in that mode. I'm going to risk it. Probably crash again. Well, let's try wax. That's a different one, at least. Work. Work. Dang it. I think it is. Okay, yeah, that is working. We just need something more subdivided. Wax is working. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure which one's bugged, but let's way subdivide that thing. And now we're in wax mode. I just want to see the power more. Size, strength. Power. Give me power. I guess this is wax, but it's really subtle. 5,000. Do something very visual. Okay, let's just say that that is good enough. Okay, so I don't know if this will work, but the thought is if we turn on that's position, scale, rotation, parameter, isn't there points? Record animated or record active objects. That's, I just want auto record to go. And is it going to record point mode? Is that, oh, this is, okay, point mode is turned off by default, so I'm going to turn that on. So don't worry about any of those. I just want the actual points to record. I don't know if this will work, but let's just say that's our, I'm going to just paint one so it, in theory, has recorded it. Now if I go forward one frame, we're now in another frame, and if I paint a little bit on it, let's see, I didn't see a keyframe record, but they might not show that. I guess the important thing is if I go back a frame. It doesn't seem to record. Back a frame? No? Shouldn't that be? I'm manipulating points. Right? So shouldn't this being in auto keyframe mode, that should be working? I'm gonna hit keyframe, go forward a frame, paint again, keyframe manually again, go back a frame. No, even that didn't animate. Sculpt, 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 sculpt. Turn on. Yeah, that's on. Record. Active object. Record. Forward one frame. Sculpt, 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 sculpt. Record. Back a frame. Forward a frame. Am I missing something? Oh, sculpt is procedural and won't be picked up until it's collapsed. Yeah, but I didn't... you might be right. Do I have to hit enter? No, enter just changes mode. I'm just cycling through. Enter goes point, edge, polygon. So that's not at all what I wanted. How do we get it to be like, yeah, you're applied? Stamp, stencil, modifiers. I don't know what that means. Oh, I do know what that means, but it's not something I do. Wax mode, flow over valley. Think, 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 think. Cappuccino, Piffle is asking if Cappuccino would work, and it might record the PLA, point level animation, but it runs in real time across your entire play bar. So as soon as you did one thing, it's just going to record, and so you wouldn't get frame by frame. And I don't know, it could be that Crossfader is right, that these are all kind of live, this only counts, but if I hit undo, it's going to be doing it, it's going to undo step by step as I go. Like if I do one and then another, that's one and that's another. So to me that would be one step. I don't see any settings to preview off. No, that's not a thing. Hey, I think, oh, that's probably, yeah, that's the circle. I thought maybe it was previewing the geometry. Did anybody see me do anything wrong? Obviously wrong there. And then how would we like bake it down to be like, yeah, that is now baked down. Like if I go to the E for move tool. Well, I guess let's, as a test, let's even see if the concept is working by deleting out all these keyframes, going to the beginning. PLA is still there. Record one, frame forward. I've just got a simple little point, pull out, and then record again. Now if I rewind a frame, you see indeed it did update. You see that is keyframed. So if I were to go forward 2 frames and then go back to the wax tool, do they still have that thing? We can go back to recent tools. Can we get rid of that? That'd be interesting. Sculpt, wax, deselect all, paint, 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 paint. Record, back a frame, back a frame. Oh, see, it's not even, maybe we're in this live tool, so that can't update. Object mode, keyframe. Yeah, that now seems to have over the, oh, wait, it suddenly did appear. Oh, it did, okay, that is showing up now. What did I change? Was it just changing into model mode? Okay, let's go to the next frame. Let's go back to sculpt. Is there an easy way? Oh, it says I'm still in it, so sculpt, 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 sculpt. And then I'm going to record. I'm going to just try doing 2 at once, so we'll do go forward again. Sculpt, 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 sculpt. Record. Now, we're still in model mode. If I go back a frame, it didn't make that one disappear. If I go back another frame, it doesn't disappear. If I go back another frame, it doesn't disappear. But, again, it could be that it's not acknowledging this tool. So if I go to E, maybe, for move, now maybe we're in a different tool. And actually, yeah, look, okay. When we're in the wax one, it doesn't seem to want to update, but it does seem to be capturing my keyframes as I go. Do you see how, like, it does have, I did that one and then that one. So it does seem to be working. It just won't play back if we're in the wax mode. It doesn't refresh in the viewport, which might, that might make sense. So then it turns into, okay, so let's just say that's working. Can it auto keyframe? I kind of doubt it, but let's try turning on auto keyframe. If we go back to the wax tool, is it possible? Sculpts, brushes, tear that out so I don't have to keep opening it. So back to the wax tool, because maybe draw is bugged, maybe it's not. So just for clarity, I'm going to go forward 1 frame and let's just paint another line and then manually hit record. So that should guarantee give us 1. So now if I go forward another frame, I'm going to turn on auto keyframe and then see if that works. So with that in mind, I'm going to paint a second line. It didn't keyframe, so this is not acknowledging as it. But if I hit E, now it still didn't think, it didn't seem to visually add another keyframe. So we might have to hit the button. But if I do turn off auto, because that doesn't seem to work, but turn on record, and that in theory did 1. And then we have F and G, so I can hit F, which is, or G to go forward 1 frame, and I could do whatever painting I want, so we can do a little bit of painting there. And then keyframe is F9. I don't do that often, but let's see if it works. F9, yeah, okay, so let's do that. I'm going to hit G to go to a new frame, and then do some painting, and hit F9, and then G, and do some painting, F9, G, and then you could just keep going through there. So is it automatically doing it? Definitely not. F9, G, and let's do a little bit more, and F9. So I should have recorded a couple of keyframes. E to get out of wax mode, and now let's go back and see, well, frame. Yeah, each one does seem to capture. Doing that somewhat manual process seems to work. So now selecting those, if we wanted that to sort of be a little bit of an animation, we could stretch them out, and now it should slowly transition into those. So is it is it a super automatic way of doing it? No. But can you do it with like just hitting G and F? To be like, okay, that, and along these lines, it means every stroke isn't being recorded, but you could be like, oh, I've painted a little section, capture it. I've painted a different section. You could, you know, paint over here, paint over here, paint over here, paint over here, capture again, and jump into another frame and capture all of them that way. So it's a little bit more manual, but you can do it. If somebody thinks of a better way of doing that, I'd love to hear it, because it is a neat idea. It even makes for a cool animation where you could animate through something being created. But Shino is asking, could you record the state with a recall plugin? You could, but you're not going to be... There's no way of playing back in animation through a series of recalls. Somebody actually did that one time. Somebody was like, oh, I used... I made like 20 different cameras, each one with a different recall. How can I play through them? And it's like, oof, it's not designed to do that. So the only way to do it was to copy it 20 times, load a different camera into each one, and then do a blend between them. But good question. Okay, everybody get ready to post. I guess I'll save it. Why not? Everybody get ready to post or start posting your question again, because I don't see the previous ones. Paint, capturing frame. Well, I guess yeah, capturing paint steps manual. But yeah, if somebody thinks of a way that we could actually make those catch, that'd be good. And then maybe it could, well, you'd still have to go forward a frame. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there could be a plugin that every time you let go of the mouse, it would you'd have to enter a certain mode, because just think of what you're asking. You'd have to, even if we do currently, I have to hit one frame forward, record. You'd still have to hit one frame forward no matter what, because nothing in cinema is going to say move forward one frame every time you click the mouse. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So potentially there could be like a plugin made that every time you click in the viewport and then let go, it would move forward a frame. And that move forward a frame, well, and then potentially that plugin could also trigger a record. So, it's an idea, but it's neat. But anyway, yeah, get those questions going again. But first, I'm going to do another giveaway. So, let's see. Select all, paste, select all, copy, and paste. I have not hit the button yet, so scroll up. The button has not been hit. But let's go and check out the final commercial for today, and that is for Slicer. And the link should be working this time, so I'll be right back. Yep. So, okay, we're going to give away another plugin right now. So get ready. I'm going to hit randomize, and the top name is going to be the winner. Scrolling down, making sure I'm here. And randomize. What do we got? Abdo. Abdo has won. Abdo. Is Abdo hanging out in Twitch or in YouTube? There you are. It's on Twitch. Welcome. You have, or congratulations, you have won a free copy of one of the Spline plugins. Now, here's the plan. We essentially have, well, the show's going on for another half hour. And at the end, I'm going to do one more raffle. But, well, I guess I'm going to do two. I'm going to do one just for the YouTube chat, and I'm going to do another one just for the Twitch chat at the end. So we got one more, and then you're guaranteed to win in each chat. Nobody go to both. Just hang out in one of them. Now, one last, a important detail I want to make sure to bring up is if you don't win a copy of the plugin, or if you just like the plugins and want to get another one, or if you just want to support Rocket Lasso, I have a Patreon set up, And on the Patreon, I'm going to put this link in there. There is a special page for the discount codes of all the plugins, and you get massive discounts on the plugins if you are supporting on Patreon. If you're supporting at $10 level, you get a you actually get an $11 coupon. If you're supporting at the $20 level, you get a $21 coupon. So you automatically, essentially, save money by supporting even just for 1 month on the Patreon, and you get access to all of the scene files and bonus streams that happen and whatnot. So I'm going to put on Rocket Lasso, or I'm going to put this link in both chats. Mick is saying Paul's saying that Twitch there's more people watching on YouTube. That's true, but only people who are chatting get a chance to win. I think more people are actively chatting in Twitch. But anyway, yeah. So there is a link to the Patreon discount page on the Rocket Lasso Patreon. There's also, like, I give away some free models sometimes, and like I said, bonus streams and etc. Anyway, let's do some more questions. Scrolling. Scroll. I know people start posting the questions, and I did the raffle, so. Isn't people seconding? Don't forget you can second things. Just seeing if anybody new has a question. But looks like we got one from Crossfader. Let's see what we got. How would you do those effects that transition to a pattern? Opening it up, muting, tearing off, dragging over. What do we got? Blah, blah, blah. I think maybe not literally this question, but this is from Evoked Form. Maybe I kind of feel like we might have gotten this exact question, or maybe a different take of the same person about a very similar question. Very cool, though. I like this. It is Cinema 4D and Octane. We just got some fun cloth stuff going, and then a transition into a completely different shape. Full on cloth, full on. First of all, looks really cool. Evoked makes good stuff. Always keep in mind that you can make completely unrelated rigs. So, just out of the box, if we were to heavily subdivide something, am I on the right screen? Yes. If we were to decently heavily subdivide this, and what do I want to do? We just need to deform this in whatever random way. Let's deform this one by, let's just do two different randoms. Why not? So I like using a plane. The plane sets to point. Parameter sets to effector, so it pushes up. Under fields, we give it something like a random field. And crank up the scale so we can actually see a pattern emerge. And then even that, we could layer that up twice. Let's give that a second one, so there's double deformation. And that's based on the effector. I'm going to go back to node and switch this to Z, so they can kind of double inflate. So you see I kind of get this inflation pattern, and that could even be animated. In fact, why don't we do that? Both of these should I want them both to reference the same random field. So now as I animate this one, animation speed. So you see, we've got a plane, and it's deforming, doing its thing there, looking all kind of crazy. I love those double deformers because you get kind of this nice overlapping effect going. I don't like seeing that random field. Then, so that's one. Then let's make a duplicate, but really I'm starting pretty much from scratch with just the plane. And what do I want that to do? Well, I want that one to, let's do some sort of pattern. So very similar idea, but I will do it from scratch, just to show you that there isn't any literal overlap between them. Make another plane, another deformer. We'll push up on 50, deforming on points. The field, this time, I'd like to just feed it I want to do squares, but now I think about it, squares are way harder than spheres, because I could just create a matrix. And you see the matrix is a grid. That's How is that offset? Oh, I was like, okay. Under the effectors, here's something to note. When you have an object. If you have a MoGraph object and you create an effector while it's selected, it automatically applies it. In addition to that, though, if you have an effector created and you create a matrix or a cloner, it will automatically apply it. And I forgot about that. So that's why they were offset from each other. Anyway, this matrix will just be set to, I'm going to say those are the end points, and now they'll only be a grid of 5 by 5. Thus, this plane can be deforming based on this MoGraph object treated as a series of individual points. And now we can set whatever radius on there that we want. Actually, I wonder if we could, what if I do that a second time? Yeah, so we get that cool kind of inflation. I wanted it to be a little bit more different from the reference, but it does look kind of cool. And I'm going to put a third one. The third one, oh, I guess the third one gets outside the radius, but if I increase the radius, oh, that doesn't look as good as I thought it would. Or I thought the third one would really puff it out. I guess the third one could. I just have to delete the fall off. There. That's going to super puff it out. And now we just say less. And now, yeah, see, now we can get that kind of overlapping kind of inflation. I just wanted that little pinchy look happening in the corners. Anyway, now you see I've got two different things. But keep in mind, they both are the exact same underlying point count. The point structure is identical on them. So if we activate both of them, rename that one 1, rename that one 2, and now make a duplicate, and this one will be 3. Hide, visually hide from both the render and the viewport. This one doesn't get anything. We just have the original thing. The matrix also can be hidden. This one needs to morph. So let's add on the good old rigging pose morph. And I would like to affect the points and delete the base pose. I'm just going to leave the base pose, drag in this and say, yes, it's a relative morph. And then drag in 2 and say, yes, it's a relative morph. So then we go to animate mode. Can we see it? Maybe this has to be editable. Yes, it does. Okay. With that being editable, what do we got? Why is that working so oddly? Oh, it's probably the order, maybe. It doesn't behave. They added in this controller, which in theory is making it run better, but I've always, yeah, see how it's this first, yeah, see, I don't understand what's going on there. Why is this kind of behaving that way? I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying I don't have a good intuition for it, and clearly one has to be higher than the other. But it's almost like they have to be additive on top of each other. See, that one does nothing now. But shouldn't it be doing something? But, like I said, I feel like I'm doing something wrong there. Tag. We are absolute. Use strength. Disabled in place. Yeah, I always get lost on those. Advanced, it is linked directly to them. We could delink them. Let's try that. I'm gonna say not to link them. So this, oh, the base pose seems to have gotten affected. Let's start again from scratch. Expand, delete, 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 on. Okay, has to be editable. Add in the rigging, pose morph. Offset those, affect the points, delete that pose, link this in. No, that should just take on its attributes, in theory. Let's go to animate and test just the one. Not doing anything. Did it have to be baked down to do it? Mixing relative, absolute. Oh, come on. Having bad luck with this one today. Am I doing something wrong there? Let me scroll down and see if anybody's throwing out an answer. Yeah, I figure what I just did should have made that slider do something, but maybe I'm thinking of that wrong. If the base pose is targeting shape 1, it should change into shape 1. And then if I were to drag in shape 2 and say yes, it should be a dynamic link to the second one. Maybe the first, because I didn't feed in the base pose, maybe that makes sense. If this suddenly sort of works. Oop, nope, doesn't seem to be updating. That's not doing much at all. Oh wait, but it's working in edit mode. I've run into this before. What causes this to happen? You see how it's working when I'm in edit mode, but it doesn't work when I'm in animate mode? Is that... No. They can't be... Don't enable. Animate. Ah, yeah, I don't know. Feels like that should be working, but it's not, and I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Now, we could leave it in the edit mode. It's not smart to do that. But you see, it is actually working when I'm in edit mode. It's extra dangerous, actually, because if I wanted to go and do a... Yeah, we have to be in animate, or I want to put a pose in between them. But it's only working when I'm in edit mode. And I don't know why. Yeah, even though I was like, well, see, why would it do... What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Because I'm trying to link to what I thought, you know, I even left them there live just because I thought it would be the cleanest way of doing it. Absolute mixing. Ignacio is saying, try it with 24. Maybe it'll work there. No, this has been happening to us for a little bit. And it could just be that, well, they added in this priority and base priority. And ever since that was added in, it doesn't behave intuitively to me. They changed it so kind of my old understanding of it isn't the same anymore. And there's all these really advanced settings as far as the way to acknowledge it. And I've just never been good at getting them. Yes, I put in relative mode. Now it's like super exploding. So obviously absolute in this case is better. And yeah, in place, I don't think we want in place. And then we're using the slider. We're externally targeting. I don't know. I mean, maybe I have to make these two editable, but I don't think that doesn't make sense. It should just be looking at points. Yeah, it goes to, I don't want to call this a bug because it could be me doing something obvious and wrong. I just don't know. Now, we are currently in edit mode, so I'm going to continue while we're in edit mode. I just don't know if the correction will work if we're in that mode. This morph deformer is what I want it to do. So if we use the morph deformer and we are seeing this morph, and that's the slider that we want to control. Actually, that does seem to be controlling it really well in edit mode. So we can continue forward. If I go into the fields, I should be able to go to a linear field. And what do we got to do to make that? No, maybe it doesn't work because that linear field should be a transition between the two. It's because we're not in animate mode. I don't know if that we're feeding it something valid, but this is not giving us a transition. Using the field should be a blend between the state I'm feeding in here, and it's just not. So whatever. Man, we've done this type of thing before, and whatever issue I'm having is causing us the trouble, and it could seriously be like a checkbox. It could just be a checkbox I'm missing and it's not working. So apologies, everybody. So we're definitely going to tackle more questions because I don't want to end on this one. But, and I mean, these base shapes are fun and getting the morph between them was going to be really neat. But man, this morph tag, something about it is just not behaving the way my brain expects it to. And that's even with me dragging these in default. I'll try it out. Adam is suggesting to delete the original. If I delete the base pose, it just reappears at the end. Maybe we need two in there. Delete the base. Nope. Look, if I try and delete the base pose, it's just like, nope, I'm still here. I'm still here. So maybe there's something to that. I will make those editable just for a moment. And turn those off. This is back in edit mode. We're in the base pose. That's the base pose. Give it a pose. I mean, I'd like to say no. And then under animate, but that doesn't do anything. But if I move it here, it still doesn't do anything. If we just like that and do it, still doesn't do anything. You'd think that the base pose would be fine. If we make another one, I think the original shape was 50 by 50. Maybe. If I say that that is the base pose, maybe it was 55 by 55. Yeah. Maybe. Still doesn't like something about it. Maybe it's 100 by 100. I don't remember. Demi. Oh, well, it's not working, so I can't demo it. And like I said, I'm not calling it a bug because I could be doing something wrong. But the morph deformer is a way of feeding a fall off into a morph tag. So it's actually really powerful. But man, yeah, I'm frustrated that this just isn't working for me. I'll have to think about it. Unfortunately, most of my time this week is in preparing for my R25 presentation for the 3D motion show next Wednesday. So even though Rocket Lasso Live will not be here next week, there will be a 3D motion show. Morph pose, morph underscore WTF underscore bug question mark. But that's something for me to explore. I don't think it's some Piffle. That's a good. First of all, I like the screen name Piffle. Second of all, I don't think it's a Matrix doing it because I've had this trouble before, and it doesn't have anything to do with that deformer. It's just like whatever the process I'm doing here. But yeah, thinking about it. Yeah, Ignacio is asking about 24. I don't think going in 24. I've been running into this problem for a while now, and like I said, ever since they added in the before and after, I don't think it's going to change in 24. What do we got here? Mute. Mick has got a question. Ooh, crazy looking. What do we got here? We got some raging fire, bonfire thing going, kind of an Akira. It might be a direct reference to Akira. So this is Buck You Back. I know we've answered questions from their stuff. So yeah, in general, if it's about this flame, I mean, obviously this is a 2D animated thing. So I'm assuming the question is trying to create something like it in 3D. Oh, it's longer than I thought it'd be. It's probably, yeah, it loops pretty quickly. You can see that there's only maybe like unique 15 frames or so before it loops, but there's so much happening in it that, yeah, it definitely keeps the eye going. Let's see. Thinking about a lot of it goes to Sketch and Tune doesn't give you this kind of Sketch and Tune largely creates lines on the perimeter of objects. And here there's not there in theory if we were building something it would be a single object. So you don't get this distinguishing between the different layers. Artistically speaking as well, like that's catching certain curves. I mean, nothing to do but to do it. If we jump in and do the simplest possible version of this, the way I typically tackle something like this would be to create a straight line. So create a helix, lay it flat on the ground, get rid of the subdivisions. We only need that to have the minimum points, no radius, no end radius, and that gives us a straight line. And then create a sphere, put that into a cloner, and clone onto an object, and the object will be this helix, and shrink it down. We need way more, create more, and a bunch of randomness. Well, first let's give it a rate, and probably some rate variation. Let's see. Let's do way less so we can see if it's going up or down. Yeah, it's going up. We want to go up quicker, more randomness, and now way more spheres. Now with way more spheres, I can add an effector. Let's just go with a straight up random directly fed in. So yeah, that's randomly spreading them out. And a lot of things we could do. Let me think. What are ways I want to do this? Well, first of all, if we frame ourselves in, then they won't disappear, which is in the reference. I think it just goes out the top, so we don't need to, you know, if we were following that to the letter, we don't need to worry about making them scale away or magically dissipate. We can just zoom in enough. And that, you know, that type of thing does have a big effect on a rig. And then, you know, we've got lots of options as far as like, oh, how much randomness is there? So this can be fed a linear field. And said linear field can be on Y plus. Pull this up, and now you see it's starting out small and getting bigger. Now we could have it already partway be in it, so it starts getting slightly bigger, or go into the remapping and say that the inner offset, which is, no, not inner, min, grab the min. So now you see it's affecting the beginning at least, you know, 50%, and then it gets even more affected. So that type of thing can be nice. Maybe even spread these out more. So let's try way more, 200, 200, 200. So yeah, those really spread out, which can work. But, you know, there's a level where, I don't know, I don't want to go that far. Maybe a little bit more. 99, 99, 99. Okay, so those all spread out. And now the beginning field, a little bit less of a min. So they're going to start a little more clumped and start traveling up. All good. Then let's add some random scale. I would like that to be based on a different seed. I don't know if they are internally, but I'll add a second random. Rename this one random position. Rename this one random scale. Don't affect position. Yes, affect the scale in a uniform but not absolute way, so they get bigger and smaller. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, you see I'm building the basic shape there, and then, you know, if you're doing the fire, we could zoom up to whatever level. Here I'd probably want to feed it into a volume. Let's see what we get. In some ways, if you're going to stylize it, maybe it doesn't need to go into a volume, but let's try feeding it into a volume builder, volume mesher, and especially if it's going to sketch and tune, the lower the poly, the quicker it'll be, and in some ways it could even look better. But let's make it pretty. Yeah, I'm going to leave that pretty dang low poly and just let that do its thing. You lose some definition for sure. And then again, cropping in such a way so we can actually see the clumps. We could shrink this down and create more. We might need a little more resolution if we do that. Ooh, a lot more resolution. I may have made them too small. Scale them up until I don't see quite as much jitteriness. Yeah, something like that. And then this random position, maybe I'll give that some indexed noise-based animation. It does make them a lot less extreme, so we're going to have to push those way further. Let's do 333 and 333. I guess that one, 333. So yeah, that gets really crazy, but now we can slow it down. Animation speed 25%. Let's do UV. Oh, yeah, even UV seems to be passing through. Yeah, they're still shooting out. So global 25%, way more scale. Make them more uniform. There, that calms them down a bit. Maybe we need more clustering. Maybe they shouldn't go quite as far out. You can always tweak and tweak and tweak all day long. But yeah, that's something. But now when it gets into the world of shading this thing, that's where it really, the complexity starts to come in. So creating a new material, dropping it on there. And this isn't even sketch and tune. We just spend time building a shader, and you can do some fun things. So let's see what we can do. First of all, we can do the big one here is going to be a Fresnel. So if we do that, let's load a preset. It's taking its time. Yeah, let's just grab a regular old flame. Apparently this is even on the server, so downloaded. Okay, that's happening. Now we could posterize it in here and have direct control over it, but let's attempt to just feed that into a posterize. Posterize, pixelate, posterizer. There we go. So now you can see that it's limiting. It's not going to look too great right there, but if we hit render, you see it's actually layering up. So we'd have to choose how many layers we want. And then what I love about the posterizer is that you get this filter width, which is like a smooth transition between the layers. So let's maybe hit Alt-R. I don't typically use the interactive render region, but let's try. So we can lower the number of levels, so there's not quite so many. And then this is the transition between them. So if we lower it way down, we're getting kind of this weird haloing. It could be because we're so saturated, but I'm not sure exactly where that's coming from. But yeah, by tweaking this gradient, we can choose where the different lines are going to show up. We want more red or less red. Obviously, this is a basic thing that most people probably know pretty well. Trying to fight that purple halo. I'm trying to think of what that would be. Do you see the purple halo? Maybe it's a problem with my monitor. Because yeah, well actually now that I look at it, I even see that purple halo here. So maybe my monitors, I mean this monitor is really old. I've been meaning to get a new one for a while. When you get rid of that level, it's fine. But anyway, how do I want to do this? We can't follow the curvature. This is as close as you can get to ever following the curvature, which in some ways is a problem because, like you see, we're never going to, if we look at the reference, something like this bump right here would have a whole bunch of red on the top of it, because you could artistically be like, well, there's a bump there, so I want more red. But here, there's just not enough of that to justify it. So then it turns into like, well, we need the things to get randomly pushed apart from each other more so that that creates the contrast. So under the random position, if we allow those to start pushing apart further, that's the 0. Push these apart more and more as those spheres kind of break away from the main. Do you see how we get the red line because of the way we're breaking it? So you can get that type of thing. So that is one level. I would like to, how do I want to do this? I'm going to temporarily store that inside of the diffuse channel so that I can instead talk about a fall off. So we go to fall off, and now you see that there's something very directional where it's like very dark in the bottom and very light up on the top. And we're posterizing it, but essentially this is a good way to add like snow onto something. If I lower this down to 2 levels, I could choose exactly where these fall, and now you'll see that the top sides of all of these are getting, you know, a white mask on there. So it's like, oh, you could put snow on the top, or we could invert that and use this as a mask and put moss on the bottom. So, you know, it's nice to be able to break that type of thing apart into this type of layer. Now that layer is, let's give ourselves another layer. We can push this another orientation. So we can aim that, the space not being the object, but the camera. So we're looking towards the camera. And if we put that on 1, you see it goes left. If we put it 1 in the middle, it's going to be top and bottom. If we go to the last one, it should be facing the camera. So now it's aiming directly at us. What that means is anything at the halfway point and beyond is actually like the back side of this, and we won't even see it. So I have to pull this beyond the 50% area, and then we should start seeing that black ring pop in. So that's another way that we could get very direct control over the way these are. At this point, though, it's very similar to a Fresnel. I don't know if it's identical, but it's definitely similar. But you can get some control that way. Now, what was that technique I used to do? First of all, you'd want to take this and put into probably the luminous channel so that, you know, we're seeing this fully blown out with no shading. And so let's just try controlling the colors a bit more. I'll scoot all those to the right. Let's get the black pulling over so we can get a little bit more of a framed edge. But see, to me, it goes to, this is only the beginning of it. Let's see. Maybe we can combine 2 of them. Let me think. Let me think. I wish we were in if we were in the node material thing. It's just not something I'm familiar enough with to like get really complex. So we'll have to do some of the more basic layering. But anyway, here's the thought. I'll keep that. I'll keep this as its own posterizer, copying the layer, and then put this entire thing inside of a. Well, let's do a layer shader. Why not? So that's now inside of a layer shader. All good. Paste a duplicate of it. So now there's 2 of them. One of them, I'll make a Fresnel. And the other, so that'll be posterizer underscore Fresnel. Hopefully that lets us know what it is. And this is posterizer. I guess they both start with, that'll be posterizer fall off. So we could now start combining these in different ways. Somebody's mentioning that we could potentially get them from the age of the sphere. And I wasn't even thinking on that level yet. I'm not even taking on the different color attributes. I'm just trying to make a general thing. What I was going to try and do here, which we're in the color channel, so let's check that out. So we've just got these. I want to, right now we're 100% seeing the Fresnel, which is fine. It's really dark in front. Why did that seem to invert? Probably, yeah, actually that makes sense because we switched it. So I want to crank that up and we see that. And then let's say we want to darken the underside of it. Well, we can do that with that Fresnel. I don't want to lose the one I've got, so I'll make a duplicate of it. And this Fresnel, let's see what that one's doing. Let's go inside and say that should actually be viewing this from the top and bottom, which I think is this one. So yeah, now the underside is dark. So let's say the top side is light. Yes, no? Yeah. So the top side is now lighter, and I can pull this down. And oh yeah, this one's only returning 2 layers of color. Oh no, it's 3. Where's that midpoint? Fall off. It should be overwriting perfectly. Oh, that's pulled over. That explains it. So yeah, we get something like that. So then the thought is, now we say, hey, fall off, you darken whatever comes from underneath. So now we get a darker underside, and we maybe get these highlights as well. So we have those sort of separated out as separate controls. That's the idea. I want more dark areas. I guess more dark and more light. Increase the contrast area. So now, yeah, now we kind of get the outline, but then we also get this darker underside. So you see how I'm trying to bring out a little definition from those being separate things. By setting it to darken, we've now layered those up in such a way that we can colorize them after the fact. What I would like to do is add, we're never going to get good streaks going. You can sort of fake some streaks. We've got this fall off. Here's a fall off we haven't used yet. So keep in mind, we're just viewing the fall off. And I'm going to temporarily crank the layers up so it looks pretty smooth. Actually, I don't want the layers on that one. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I wish I could disable that. Once again, the reason to be in a node world. I gotta focus, or put my attention on doing that in the future. Anyway, we're now looking at this fall off. If we loop this somehow, and let's do it in the simplest way. I'm gonna say double knots, double knots, double knots. So now you see I've got a bunch of different knots. Right clicking, I can also say distribute knots, and now they kind of even themselves out. Although it looks like I did have some curvature on them, which doesn't help. I'm gonna reset to default, and now double, 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 distribute. So now you see I got nice even things. And now you see we get these stripes going. And these stripes, in a way, are following the curvature, okay? Do we want one more layer of stripes? I kind of want half again. That's not easy to do. We get double and distribute. And you see we get the layers. But I don't want to go too far. If you go too far, you'll break it. And in fact, I think that it's better here to explain. Anyway, you see that I'm kind of getting these stripes in certain areas. Well, stripes everywhere. So if we were to take that as a series of stripes that are actually facing the camera and then mask them out somehow. So let's make a folder, drop that into the folder, and then use a copy of the fall off. So now you see the fall off, and in the fall off, it's using these layers. I don't want the layers, so copy out the shader, paste it. Delete that one. Okay, so I can now, facing the camera, this is all we're seeing is this. I want to create a mask, essentially. So let's isolate kind of a stripe right where we want it to be. So I'm going to pull that up. Getting there. So I want to go, yeah, something like that. So you see where those are sort of showing up. We probably want to double this up, so I'm going to make a second white knot. So we kind of get this stripe going. And my hope is, if I say yes, multiply on top of those stripes below, we now sort of have this isolated area of stripes where we want to see some emphasis. If we go back to the original, you see we kind of get these stripes in certain areas. That's what I'm going for. I'm trying to get them however I can. So now we do have this folder which is returning the idea of these stripes. That we can, there is a posterizer here, and it does have those same settings, so we can put that there. Give me 2 layers of posterizing with no transition. And is that doing a thing? Crank up the render quality. 1? Yeah, there we go. So now you see it's just literally on or off stripes. So then turn off that layer temporarily, and now you can see what we've got underneath. Turn that off so you see, okay, we've got this. So if I say, okay, cool, we get that. Now I want to I want to lighten whatever we're getting from this top layer onto it. Now I get those stripes appearing up on the top. So we've added in another layer of detail into that specific spot. Potentially we'd want to invert that and darken them. We're lightening them right now. That's because they're black stripes, so that does make sense. So yeah, that lightens those edges. So as you take time, you layer and layer and layer, depending on what you want the final effect to look like. You can see where that might eventually give you the final effect. So now we can, let's put the fire color back in there again. So we'll grab that flame and definitely want, maybe even get rid of that black. And we've already got pretty good posterize going. And we get those colors happening there. I mean, it just goes to, this is where I knew we were going to end up, because that's something that's hand-drawn. So trying to emulate from this is just like not looking very elegant. Where Sketch and Tune might be able to pull out certain edges, but what I really wanted to do was see if we could distort this somehow. And we can do some distortion. Let's just see what we get from it. So I do like the cinema distortion. If we feed this entire thing into a distorter, can we make that work? And I guess at this point I should probably save it, even if I'm not in love with the result, like, at all. Okay, so now we are distorting. It is set to, I'm going to set it to bi-directional and just feed in a noise. And let's see if we see anything. Let's crank up the power. Give me power. Is it doing anything? Okay, apparently it is not eligible to get distorted. These are crazy high numbers. We'd blatantly be seeing it do something if it was going to work. Oh man, making those imperfections on the lines was kind of like what I was building towards the whole time. But I thought if Fresnel, maybe a Fresnel can't, but fall-offs can. I've definitely done it with fall-offs. And with lighting, I wish I could find the old Burger file. I have like a really cool old animation I did. And it's kind of the direction I was going with this. Let me see if I can find the animation just to show you what the thought had been. Give me a second. It's one of the old, it's so old that it's on my old personal YouTube channel. Here we go. So this was a series. This was like just R&D tests I was doing for fun. And so this is all cinema, and this is years ago. I posted this in 2014. And it's all just, there's no sketch and tune per se, not sketch and tune lines, but maybe some of the shaders. And let's just let this play so you can see. Wow. Oh yeah, this was just like a little screen cap of low res tests, but you can see here, yeah, it's just cycling through a bunch of different looks and tests I was doing. But you can see how I was like trying to emphasize and get different colors and different highlights and different looks. So if we did pursue this, I'd have to like, this was after our hours of R&D of like trying to get different looks out of it. But you see, I was able to get some pretty nice definition out from it, and it's even lighting based. It's seeing the lighting. So if we did get this type of shader going again, layered up properly, we would actually be able to get it to show some pretty cool weird looks. And you see even here, just as I'm exploring and getting different looks and textures and layouts. Trying to get to show something. So it's something, but yeah, we did not get there today. And I'd have to see if I could even find that animation, those files. I mean, they could be around somewhere, but they're pretty old. I'd have to look for them. I'm not gonna be able to find them now. I'm not gonna search for them now. But yeah, I'd love to pursue that. But now we've kind of had 2 failed questions in a row. I don't want to end that way. Oh, Piffle, you're probably right. I was using a whole bunch of Loomis shader. Yeah, that might not be the only way I did it, but it's definitely a lot of Loomis shader. I love the Loomis shader. Man, the Loomis shader is a good shader. Let's see. Is there another question? I don't want to end on those 2. I know we're already a little bit over, but one more question would make me happy. Vader, yeah, put the question if you got it. Yeah, Loomis shader is good. Just while I'm waiting for another question to pop in, just to show, this one's saved, so I won't lose anything. So there's the noise. If I feed in the Loomis shader, maybe it won't distort. Maybe I distort it in a different way, because there are 2 different types of distortion. Put that in. So now this is a Loomis shader. What's cool about that is I could feed this into like the luminance channel, and you see it still looks like it's shaded, even though we're in pure luminance. So you can do things like go really bright on that, give it a full 100% illumination, and now it's kind of like we've got a color. We've got an entire shading model happening, and literally it's the algorithm internal, or we can do Aura Nair, and you can do shading from that. But based on that, we've got these different speculars. Even those can be turned off, and you get this, and that is something that we could then posterize, and it's based on the way we feed colors in. But let's try throwing that into a posterizer, and yeah, you can see that that has successfully posterized, and you can already see this doing better definition. I definitely should have gone right for this one, and it's based on lighting. I don't know if it does shadow. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But let's see if we can get this to see the distortion. So we have, as mentioned, 2 different types of distortion. Let's try putting this distorter in and feed in the noise and crank up the power and make the noise really small. Still not doing it there. I know I've done that with Loomis. Crank this up, see if there's any result. Doesn't seem to be. None. Field flow. Doesn't seem to want to respond there. Hit render. There's always a chance it doesn't work with interactive render region, but even here it doesn't seem to. So let's try it with the other type of distortion, and maybe that's where we went wrong even on the other one. Paste this back in again. Put that into a layer shader, and the layer shader has its own distort. And it's distorting a noise, let's say 3D based. Even that, this doesn't seem to be distorting. I'm gonna have to look into that. This is driving me nuts. I wish that when I was done with these live streams that I didn't have other stuff I had to do, because I would just spend a couple hours trying to figure out what the heck's going on here. because... But I do have a presentation to prepare for. But why? Like, I've done this type of thing. So it just goes to, what am I missing here? Because that just doesn't seem to be having any effect whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'll have to look into it. But yeah, Luma Shader, really cool. Super old school at this point, but... let's see. What happened to the motion path handles in the viewport? You know what? That's a good question. I know exactly what you're talking about with it. And I'm not sure if they got rid of it, or if they're moved, or if there's a setting you have to activate. I'm not going to say that because the previous one had slightly better information. But anyway, just to attempt to answer your question. And we used to have motion paths. Are they still in Cinema? Because we used to be able to keyframe that, and then go to a different time, and then keyframe it again, and then go to a different time, and keyframe it again. And, well, no, I'm seeing the path right now. You see where there is a path, but you used to be able to move them. Oh, wait, it just seems to be working right away. Isn't this what you're talking about? What am I, why does it just seem to be instantly working? I don't see the handles, though. Maybe the tangent preset, fixed weight, if we say custom, don't auto tangent. No, it's still doing it. But all of these might be related. Can we select more than one? Nope, only one at a time. Control D, is there a setting for that under animation? Break tangent, don't auto tangent, angle, fixed, remove overshoot. I don't know what it said. I'm just going to tweak a whole bunch of those. Let's try doing that again. So let me try keyframing it with this new mode. So keyframe, rewind, keyframe, rewind, and keyframe. Oops. Oh, dang it. Rewind, move, keyframe. There. Okay, so if I select that, yeah, I have the character selected. Select the point. You see, I actually select the point, but yeah, there's still no handles. I thought we used to be able to have handles. Weighted tangent. Because you can take this and curve it up, and I feel like this is using... Maybe it's because it's a... There used to be a specific animation tool. Now we can go here into animation, and I feel like that's the tool that would do it. And yeah, you can see here that I can actually scale, but scaling up the entire thing, not just what I have selected. Weighted tangent. I think I turned everything off. Fixed weighted. Yeah, this seems to all be pre-built. But did we used to be able to get handles on there? I just don't work from this mode very often. Like, I can grab these curves and move it, but it does seem to be trying to automatically clean them up. I thought we'd be able to change them from here. And we do have these tangents, so maybe we don't see in the viewport, but I can control it via these sliders here. Let's say break tangents. Yeah, now I can change them. Lock angles. Keep visual angle. I'd love to see the handle, but you can see I'm able to change them from here. Not something we do very often, but you're able to, but you can do it. But yeah, I don't know if they got rid of it, or I just use it so infrequently that maybe they've added to it and we have to turn something off to be able to see it, or maybe it's just gone now and you're expected to just do it all from the timeline. Like we can just turn on the F curves here, and where's our figure? Yeah, so you can see the handles here, and if we control them via this, you're just going to see it immediately represented in the viewport. So maybe that's the idea, is that it's like, oh, they're gone from here, they're only in here. Because way back when I was first doing animation, I was actually doing controls like this, doing it this way. But even here, it's really weird because we don't have access to the directions. Maybe we can lock it like that. Yeah. Well, no, but that moves the entire thing. That's not what we want. If I grab just this handle, it's based entirely on the current angle of the viewport. So I can pull it left and right if I click directly on the dot. But if I want to pull it in, I have to spin the camera over here and then pull it that direction. So A little bit unintuitive. It's an interesting one. The left-right, my left-right handle is too short. I made them, I mean, here's our handles. They're super crazy. Shouldn't we be blatantly seeing them? I'm not seeing handles. I'm just seeing the result. You can see that this should be crazy long. If this had a handle, we'd be visibly seeing the handle right around here, but there's not one. But like I said, it could be that maybe we're supposed to be in point mode, like maybe animation mode, maybe object mode. Maybe there's just a setting not turned on or off. You know, we can mute the track, breakdown. Like any one of the checkboxes might turn it on or off. It's just not something I have tinkered with in a while. Interesting, though. I mean, it's a good question. I wish I had a better answer for you. It's interesting that we can spin all of them around, but we can just move those. I wouldn't think they'd be turned off, Brandon. That's a good idea, that maybe in a filter somewhere. But we are in the default, and I'm pretty sure everything's turned on. We're only missing SDK and object highlighting, so I don't think there's a filter turning them off. It's an excellent question. I don't know that I have a good answer. Yeah, maybe if it did get removed, I think it might have gotten removed like a long time ago. And I certainly didn't notice it for years. But yeah, it's a good question. Prism had an Instagram question. Let's check it out. See if it's a quick one, because we do have to wrap up. Oh, this looks very similar to what we were doing earlier today. Let's see what we got. Wiggle, wiggle. Yeah, that's shockingly similar. So this is Generative Art Studio. Is this... okay, yeah, it is a person. For a second, I thought it might have been... one of the collectives. But yeah, this is shockingly similar to what we just had earlier. The we don't even need to spend too much time focused on it. Let me think of what I might do to get that very specifically going. I wonder if I don't want to do it that way. I know the way I'd want to do it. That would take too long. Especially with it just being, yeah, I'm probably overthinking it. I mean, here, let's do the quickest, most basic version of that. Just because it's kind of neat. Let's see. I'm going to do it from a figure. Why not? We'll make it a little bit weird. Make the figure editable. So, I can put him in a bit of a pose. Wee. Let's see, we need a nice line of action here. Something like that. Wah. Okay. Very dramatic. So, do we put that in the volume? That's not strictly necessary, but maybe for making the hairs the way I want to. Yeah, why not? Volume measure needs more resolution. Probably needs to be inflated a bit. Not much. 2. Okay, yeah, just the basic pose is all that matters. That's clumping in a little bit. Okay, so yeah, that gives us a basic mesh, and then simulate hair, add hair. So now big old hairy spikes shooting out everywhere, and then make those as long as we want. So maybe, you know, we can go nuts and like really push them out. We don't want that many, so let's change this to be a polygon area, so who knows where they'll appear. And I'll say I only want 200 of them, and then editing, regrow, and they'll be randomly placed all over the place. Otherwise we're just erasing out from the existing ones. These are all shooting straight out from the normal of the object. It's based on normals. We could make it pure random if we want to, but for me right now, normal's fine. Then we can ultimately, I don't even know if we'd see the figure here, but let's do a technique that I figured out how to do on Ricochet. And we might be able to do it super parametrically, which would be cool. Under hairs, let's say that these should grow only as guides, which is something else we did, and we don't want to mess that up. Then generate not hairs, but splines. Now those are generating as splines. And then I want to begin to deform. These should be returning as splines. We could sweep these if you wanted to. So I want to start deforming these. So we'll do a standard randomly deform them. And the subdivisions will matter, but we'll get to that in a moment. Deform the points. And you're going to see it's going to look all super crazy. They're deforming all over the place. I like it. Let us limit where these are being deformed. We can limit via the hair, much as we did earlier. This is now limiting per segment, which is what we want. And you can see it actually looks like it's starting kind of smooth near the character, and it's getting crazier as it goes out. So in a very similar way to what we did earlier, I'll let's have it be super calm. You see here I'm saying it's crazy on the outside, and here I'm saying it's crazy on the inside. So let's say it's crazy in the middle. So now they get a little bit nuts in the middle. We can calm this down in our random. You just pull back the strength. You see those can get pulled back a bit. Changing this to be noise-based and indexed. Oh yeah, and it's always weaker when you go to noise. Now we should be able to hit play, and each of these is going to be, it's dynamic still. Turn that off. Hairs, dynamics, nope. Now I should be able to hit play. And now we see that all of those are super totally randomly wiggling all over the place, which is pretty much exactly what I want to have happen. That is going to be based on our point count, and it's indexed. The speed can be whatever we want, so slow that down if we're inclined. Those get slower. Let's go even slower. Yeah, so nice and slow. Each of those moving around, doing their own thing. These are all still hair-based, so if we were to go into double-click the hair, now we're in the hair material, we can activate something like length. Maybe scale is a better idea. Say scale. Under scale, we can add a whole bunch of variation. Oh, is it not going to visually represent? I thought it would. Because the length is totally based on this length. But I thought that multiplier would work. But we can, easily make those longer, and everything else adapts to it automatically. So you see those all drifting out in the space. Very dramatic. So yeah, we get these different wiggling lines. They all terminate wherever we want them to. We could, I didn't even think about it, but something we could do, we should totally do. Oh, maybe the scale did work. Look, see those are randomly scaling out further than the original line. So the hair that I didn't think was working, I think is maybe, yes, no. Does it need a frame to refresh? Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I don't trust it. And if I don't trust it, I'm going to turn it off. Yeah, maybe it's not changing there. Anyway. Oh, we should be able to... I guess the hair is still applying. Let's delete the hair. I don't want any of those variations. We get it all from our deformation. I should be able to actually go to our layout. Hopefully, let's save it. We've been having bad luck today, so let's save it. Hair wiggle, good enough. Let's change. I'm going to activate my groom layout and go to groom layout. So now I should be able to pick the brush, select the hair. I guess we'll turn off random. And now brushy, brushy. Brush, brush, brush. And we can paint this out however we want. It's really important when you're doing the brush to almost be constantly rotating your camera. So you're constantly getting a refresh perspective of exactly what's going on. But, and I'm not even going for anything specific here, but the point being is we have the option to customize these and brush them as we see fit. Well, let's just say, let's actually try and do something. So if this character is being strung up, or maybe it's kind of supposed to be angelic or something, we could paint these out and up and then get a dramatic curl going on up there, and then these can shoot out. Kind of clump those all together. Kind of get a starfish thing going. Did anybody see The Suicide Squad? I like that movie. But yeah, as you see how I'm we're able to artistically actually do something with this. It's not It's decently parametric, but we are able to get a very nice control here. And like I said, this is why you got to keep on changing your perspective, because even there I was like, okay, they all look good. And it's like, oh wait, I forgot about the front and back. We only did it in 2 dimensions instead of 3. So yeah, painting these all out. That should be, you know, it's something now. Spending, you know, obviously spending more time, you'll get better results. Let's just separate these 2 clumps. Come on, there, gotcha. Okay, that's something. So, with those all painted out, let's go back to our standard layout, and very, very similar to before, create a sphere and a cloner. Hold down Alt, create cloner, clone onto an object. The object shall be the hair, T for scale. There's a lot going on, so it's not exactly super quick. Okay, those are all laid out. We don't even need to loop them. Definitely the reference didn't. So turn off turn off loop, and those will go to the end. And then hair. I don't want to lose anything. Let's save. Under generate, do we get settings for the hair? Not so much. Is there point interpretations? Yeah, they're not even right now. You see they're very randomly spaced, so we'll have to compensate with that, not through the cloner. So I can set this to even or step. Step is a good one. Now we can say every 25 units we want another sphere, so you see they all get evenly spaced out. And you know, the character's completely disappearing here. So in order to make this look super clean, we'd have to make these very small. I guess I was going to run dynamics on them, and we can't make that many if we're going to make dynamics. So we'll maybe try both. I'm going to make a lot fewer of them and then make them larger, and then by making them dynamic, simulation, rigid body, follow position, much as before. Then, you know, again, we can colorize and or have them scale pretty simply by feeding in almost, it's amazing how similar this is to the first one. Create a plane effector. This will affect not the position, but yes, the scale in a absolute uniform way. I want to scale to -1, and they all disappear. Under fields, we'll limit it again to the hair, and now you can see it falls off. They get smaller and disappear near the edges, and they are larger in the inside. That can get remapped as earlier. Selecting the hair. What's going on here? Layer. Here's the control there, so we can set that down and up, and then we'll do a similar thing. So we'll actually, we want this to be scaled all the way down, and then actually have some scale. So now it's peaking in the middle. Change the arc if so inclined, so those can fill out. And then the color is based on, actually the color is based on what this curve is doing, so that's something to keep in mind. But under remapping, actually under color remapping, we can say it's a gradient, and now we could determine the color. So now they're white on the edge, and they could change to whatever color we want. Let's go with a bright pink. Bing. And we are arcing it pretty harshly, so maybe, yeah. Actually, yeah, here's what I should do. This is now controlling the color and the scale, but we could just have it do one. Let's say don't control the color, and then let's make another one. So this one controls dot scale, and then under the cloner, we'll just make another one. Never be shy about making a second one. Turn off position. Yes, field color. Field will be based on the hair. Under hair, I would like to go to layer. No, color remap, change that to a gradient. And now this is very directly transitioning between them. So we can push that up to a pink color. So now you can see it goes from white to pink, and it will eventually go to black all the way at the end point. Maybe not. Yeah, as I pull them in, you'll see the dark color slowly fade in. And we just influence the colors here however we want. Maybe fade into a purple there. Don't go all the way to white. Yeah, and have them fade out. That way, make whatever colors we want. They are dynamic. They're being told to follow position. There's a lot of them, so I want to be careful about hitting play. But yeah, just, I guess it's well enough. I can hit play. You see they'll all stop overlapping. And then if we activate our random to start deforming them, let's see what happens. So now, ooh, a little crazy. Very crazy. Why is it doing that? Let's find out. Check out the hair. Hit play. Yeah, those are drifting nice and slowly. And that is entirely our deformation. You see how we get this kind of nice electrical type effect, which is pretty cool. Honestly, I wish I had done about 1/10 the number of hairs. And I think if I'm going to hit save to try it. But let's try dropping the countdown. But I bet we lose our... yeah, I guess I kept some of them. If I hit regrow, it's going to be completely from scratch. So we'll just end up with what we randomly had, which I guess isn't terrible. So that should make everything run quicker. But then if we clone back onto them, they should be constantly trying to get to this updated deformed position. But I'm not sure why they're all freaking out and flying really far away. Like everything's pretty calm. Under dynamics, we can turn off gravity, but that's not much of an effect. And then these are all just trying to get to their original position, which is just a simple follow position of 0. If I say 0, they'll just drift away. But even there, you can see them explode. Like, yeah, they're colliding a little bit. It's almost like, I know why. I know why. So remember we changed the cloner to be the step? Well, now they're saying they should be exactly every 50. But now these lines are growing longer and shorter because of the deformation. And that means it's suddenly creating new ones. Some of them are disappearing and some of them are suddenly reappearing. So they're existing and not existing, and that's going to make them pop in and out. So this cannot be set to step, but it can be set to even. And that will give us a very similar effect, and it should be stable. Oh, and I turned off all the follow, so let's put that back to 5. There we go. So now we should get those nice, gentle... Yeah, those are animating. You see these all slowly doing their own thing. The fewer we have, the more I'm going to be able to really crank this up. So let's drop the count even further, but then we can create more. Okay, so now there's a ton of them, but they can be smaller. Trying to see the individual lines here. I guess that original one just didn't have too many lines. There we go. Now we're starting to distinctly see the individual lines, and depending on how many clusters you have, how large they are. Yeah, I'm going to keep shrinking. Dynamics are going to keep trying to get them to fill in the spaces. Yeah. So now you get the nice little statics going around. They're dynamic. They're wiggling around. They're not overlapping. And yeah, we can actually see the character because we kept on decreasing the amount. So you see these lines go in. And I'm not sure what's happening to them. It seems like maybe it's the Omega 13s getting them. None. Oops, not none. Chris preset. To get rid of the grid. This clearly needs more frames. Yeah, so yeah, nice simple wiggles, all based off of hair. Keep in mind the hair could be turned on. We could make these hair dynamics activate, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, honestly. Let's turn on those hair dynamics. And then the forces, it has its own gravity, but if we turn off that gravity, I'm gonna hit save because everything's working fine. If I play, I think this should not freak out. And yeah, you see the hairs aren't really doing anything. They're just like, whatever, I'm not being told to do anything. So then we say, yes, you are. You are going to be told to... You are going to be told to... They're naturally animating, but I don't want gravity, but I would like a field force. So MoGraph... No, not MoGraph. Simulate forces, field force. Crank up the power a bit and give it just a random field. Let's see what that does. Random field with a visible scale that is animated. Okay, so yeah, now you see these individual hairs drifting. Of course, now they're passing through the cloud of noise, so this noise maybe needs to be a little bit different in the way we are applying it. That is from here. That is based on global. I'll start cranking up the scale. That's going to calm it down a bit, although not as much as I wanted it to. Not much at all. UV, no, again, not as much as I wanted it to. How much of an issue is that? I wonder if we could. We're not changing point count. I wonder. I have been impressed lately that like Jiggle is able to calm things down. So let's see if Jiggle can do something for us. Why not? Jiggle, 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 jiggle. Okay, let's see if that's doing anything. Ooh, something's happening. Maybe a point count is changing somewhere. Because you see those pops? I don't think those pops would happen if the point count wasn't changing. Yeah. I guess the hair is changing a point count somehow. I'm not sure how or where, but it is. Because those blips distinctly indicate, even though this should be, it's as guides, which means each one is exactly 8 long. Blip, 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 blip. Yeah, if those are blipping, they're not going to work for us. Like that way. So, maybe no jiggle. Sad. Yeah, I wish we get these a little more uniform. As they're passing through a giant cloud of noise, though, you do kind of expect... Although these are... Even if we lower it way down, you can see like all that jitter happen. Bigger, 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 bigger. Yeah, this noise should be large enough to do it. What's going on here? I mean, I know they're indexed, but that shouldn't have anything to do with it. They should be individually passing through a larger noise. I would think we get those colorized better. Now, I was going to say, having said that, there are... Maybe we don't do it with a random. If we subdivide this more... How are we doing it? Right now it's just a field force running on hair. But if we say that the hairs are, let's say, 30 segments each. Yeah, so now you see they're look how they can twist more because I just added more segments. And you can see how it's really taking on the properties of the noise, and which actually looks quite nice. Like those very elegant drifting here. If we go into the field force and tell the noise, like this noise we could make way larger, so let's go 333. So we should, what you want to see is a lot of uniformity between them, and yeah, right now a lot of them are doing very similar things. And we make a second one, and then we see the smaller one, and we say this one's way smaller, so we do like 555, and now when I reset, you should see a lot of like individual little wiggles going on. So it turns into like, okay, you combine those on top of each other, so we'll add those together, make this one way weaker, and now in general you see this smaller movement and larger movement. And I do have the speeds up quite strongly. As the overall force is actually quite strong as well. So maybe lower that. Oop, don't double it. So yeah, now those gently drift around. And now we're getting those in-between movements, not from the deformation, but just from this random field being able to move them. And I don't know for sure, but hair does have certain forces. If we go inside of its properties, there's things like fixed roots and rest hold, and yeah, here's even like stiffness modifiers and whatnot. So if we said rest hold, if I say 100, are they gonna, yeah, rest hold is super stiff. So then if I say okay, rest hold, that's fine, but weaken that, maybe it has to be really weak. Yeah, look at that. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. So now I'm essentially saying it's transitioning into like its original state. But now by dragging this over, I'm saying like, yeah, you're allowed to wiggle, but the original ones are still rooted because of set root. But then this rest hold is saying like, oh, now forces can happen here, but they can't happen on the tip, and those are stuck. And that's pretty much exactly what I wanted to have happen here. So now our two independent noises are able to work, but they're not going to get drifted, you know, too dramatically in either direction. And then there's no reason why we can't. Let's turn off the display. There's no reason not to turn the spheres back on again. Those should be continuing to want to be on those lines. Let me just frame forward once to make sure it's not freaking out. Yeah, not going to be there are a lot of clones now, but yeah, those are now naturally drifting. These spheres want to be on top of them. They're all in their natural position and just working. And yeah, that's actually working quite well. I guess they might do that invisible drip thing, but we should be able to even give these some speed. Oh, I have to turn on the loop. Otherwise, actually, what happens if we don't? Oh, they just disappear. Okay, I'm going to turn on loop. Okay, give them a chance to get into their position. Yeah, now they're getting there. So now they should be small, and then they jump back to the beginning, and then they try and travel along. So now you see they're all constantly traveling out. We should be able to say negative 25 and have them completely reorganize themselves. If we reset, it would also work. So now they're going to be constantly going inside. So now it's like he's taking in energy. Of course, we still got those tiny little ones that are like going out and resetting. So we'd have to think of a way around that. But yeah, the direct control we have over this is pretty dang good. If we crank up our follow position as well, they should snap to that line a lot more strictly. Yeah, immediately as soon as I crank that up, you see how much nicer they're sticking to that line. But they're still dynamic, so they can't pass through each other. And they're all slowly drifting along, doing their thing. Working pretty well. And shockingly parametric setup. Look, there's not much, even now we got a lot to delete. Look at this entire hierarchy. Like, very little is actually going on to make this do its thing. And that's even, well, I guess if these hairs are on a volume measure, but if that wasn't a volume measure, these could actually be on an animated character. Those would, if this was a rigged up character, he could be flailing around and the one stuck to his head would stay stuck to his head and the one stuck to his arm would stay stuck to his arm. So it works pretty well. So yeah, thanks for the follow-up question. I know it's kind of a continuation of the previous one, but I think we just learned some additional things that make this even more powerful. And being able to push the hairs and have the hairs work in a way that I didn't necessarily expect them to. But yeah, well, yeah, the dynamic spheres. I think it doesn't feel too fiddly to me. Like they seem to be cooperating quite well overall. I guess we do get those little ones. We can see them almost like those tiny little ones. They get to the beginning and go, wait, I gotta go back to the beginning and then travel through. Those are the only things that could cause us trouble. But right now, it's not really looking like they are. But yeah, look at this coherence. Like that's the kind of thing you really fight for. Is like, oh, I really want to get these drifting lines traveling. And that's what we got here. And we can, let's go to the field force, and I'm going to really crank this up and keep in mind that they're still stuck at the beginning and the end. So if I make this twice as strong, we should see more wiggles, but the end is still stuck and the beginning is still stuck. So we'll see more like wrinkles in between, but they can't go anywhere. They can't go too far. So yeah, just working quite nicely. All right, everybody. Thanks for that question. I'll save that. It even looks cool in the still, like in the beginning before they all explode outward. So, thank you so much for coming and hanging out. I know we went extra long on here to get to a good question, or to end on a good question. Let's see, is there any follow-ups on this specifically? What would the static end of the hairs do on an animated character? Would they follow along? You know what? It's a pretty good question. I don't know. Is the end of the hair relative to where the character is? I know I was wrapping up and we got that last raffle to do, but let's just answer this question quickly because it's an easy one to answer. Save that, open a new file, and I think this will work. Sphere, floor, both of them dynamic. Add hairs, simulate, add hairs. Hairs extra long as guides, long hairs, dynamics, yes, rest hold 100, modifier lower. Okay, it should be all we need to do. So let's see. Hit play. Oop. Oh, I made an environment on the floor. Whoops. There we go. It's like, how did that happen? Okay. Yes. Okay, they're relative. So the hair is relative to where the original one was. So if it's on the hand and you moved it around, it would move to a new set location. In some ways, that's a good thing. In some ways, that's a bad thing. But as far as it being automatic, it's pretty good. Yeah. That's another good detail to remember. Let's see. When's the next season start? It's a good question. As Mick is saying, probably Feb 22nd, or yeah, February 2022. I'm assuming that's when I started this time. Last time I had a particularly long break in between because we were really working hard on some plugins. Maybe this one won't be as long. So I don't know. Maybe sometime in January. I'm not entirely sure. Special Christmas episode. Yeah, I'm still going to be doing some random live streams, some random bonus live streams for Patreon when I have something I need to test. Like if it works out, I might do one tomorrow just for practicing my 25 video for Maxon, but we'll see. But in any case, everybody's been patient, so why don't we run the last round of the raffle? So I'm going to start with YouTube. I'm selecting all of the active YouTube chat and pasting. And again, the idea here is whichever is the topmost name, if they are here, when I hit random, when I hit whatever the topmost name is, you're going to want to message me directly somewhere. And if the person isn't here, we'll wait a little bit because YouTube's like 30 seconds behind. So we're going to have to wait a window to see if they reply. If not, the second name will be there. So there's no teasing out this one. I'm not going to play a commercial or anything. So let us just hit randomize and we'll see the top name. Okay, 1, 2, 3, randomize. We've got Jesse Skelton and saying love Rocket Lasso. So thank you so much. That was, okay, so are you still around, Jesse? I'll give it a second to see if they get to respond. I even missed that message earlier on. So they didn't say it super recently, so maybe they're not around. But like I said, their YouTube's like 30 seconds behind. So let's give that a second. What else to cover? In between, as mentioned, we should have a new plugin at the end of the month or sometime before the middle of next month. That's the hope. Get the utility splines out there. That is the plan. Let's see. Yeah, and yeah, there's so many times where the smoothing plugin would have helped us even in this one today. Okay, again, Jesse Skelton, are you actively here on YouTube? They might have dipped out. But as I said, you got to be here active in the chat to get them. So we'll give that a little bit more time, but not too much more. Yeah, unfortunately, the time would already be over if... hang out, J Hall. Hang on. I guess we already called out the next one where it would be. But, all right, we got the last... Justin saying, hi, this is Jesse. I don't think so. All right. Okay, we're going... I know they're behind, but we're going another 10 seconds, and then I'm going to go to the next name. So, I don't know how to say it, but... Did we already get that one? There was a... Well, we'll see. But the next name is Adam. Adam Kovarik. Adam Kovarik. Are you here? Adam Kovarik, are you here? I might open up a second window while we're waiting for you two to respond so we can do the Twitch ones. Justin saying this is Adam. Let me copy that, open a new window, paste it in again, and now let's do Twitch while we're waiting. So if we have another person not here, we're going to wait a little bit. We're going to see, is Flavio here if Adam doesn't respond? Flavio, are you here? The next person, well, let's see. Flavio, are you here? And then the person after that is going to be Josh, if you are still here. But let's wait a little bit. And meanwhile, I'm going to go grab Twitch. So here's all the recent Twitch chat, pasting it in, and scroll up to the top, and then I hit randomize. So here we are. What is going to be the person? Oh, let me change it. I don't want to be on alphabetized. That wouldn't be any good. Click on randomize. And randomize. THRL or Twirl, I think. And I know you just said like the third comment, so you're probably still around. So I think that's going to be a lot easier on Twitch. Because now nobody's responding on YouTube, so everybody was ducking out early. So no Flavio. So next one was Josh. And then after that would be, is that a name? Turtle Duck Dada? No? No Turtle Duck? So, I mean, we said we do it in order, and J-Hall already won, so is Space Boy here? And if Space Boy doesn't reply, then it's going to be, it would be Sky. And I know Sky is still here, so hold out. If Space Boy doesn't, if Turtle Duck, well, first it's Turtle Duck. If Turtle Duck doesn't reply, then it's going to be Space Boy. And if not, it's going to be Sky going in. Oh, Turtle Duck is here. Oh, so sorry, Sky, but Turtle Duck is still here. Okay, Turtle Duck, make sure you message me on Slack or however you can get a hold of me. So, yep. Well, it was a close one, but yeah, there we go. Okay, everybody, thanks so much. Oh, yep, okay, yeah, so THRL was here, Torl was here. So that should be wrapping this up. Thank you so much, as always, everybody. The Patreon is still set up. You can get access to the live streams and the bonus live streams and the scene files and the discounts for the plugins. But otherwise, yeah, thanks for hanging out for another season. I know it's the third season of Rocket Lasso Live, but I've been doing live streaming Cinema 4D for a lot more years than that. But yeah, make sure you sign up and follow on, like subscribe on Twitch so you get notifications. Make sure you're following on YouTube. Make sure you click on the other alternative YouTube channel so you can get the archives for the replays, because there's 2 different YouTube channels. Just make sure you're following so you get updates for all of the information. If you scroll down into the descriptions, there's going to be description or links to like all the good stuff. But thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out and supporting, asking questions, hanging out on the Slack. If you're not on the Slack channel, also go to rocketlasso.com and go and sign up for the Slack channel as well, because, well, I'll still be hanging out in there answering questions and all that good stuff. So yeah, everybody get ready for season 4 in a few months, and that should do it. So let's find these lovely credits and say until next season. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, everybody.